presidential race or is going to join Azimio. Those sort of things are not part and parcel of why we have called for that meeting.
Some parts of the country may continue to stay in the dark, according to Kenya Power. In a statement, Kenya Power regretted that its counterpart, Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, was unable to restore the power supply on time as earlier promised. Kenya Power stated that KETRACO, which is the body mandated with operating and maintaining the nation's high-voltage electricity transmission grid, faced challenges in reinstalling the power, but is committed to bring normalcy. Areas that are still affected include parts of Embakasi, Kitengela, Athi River, Industrial Area, parts of Langata, Jamhuri, Kilimani and Kileleshwa, the Nairobi CBD, Hurlingham, Syokimau and Westlands. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Traffic on Thursday, what's it looking like this morning? It's not looking too bad. A little bit on Jogger Road here and there, but looks like most of the city is yet to wake up. So we're not going to have much of an issue, at least not for the next 30 minutes or so. Coming off Jogger Road into the city, industrial area, also an issue will build up here and there. Coming off Uhuru Highway, then into the city, not too bad at all. Coming out of Westlands, a little bit on Waiyaki Way, but we should be all right. Thika Superhighway looking pretty good as well. How about we talk in half an hour? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, how are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation on the 13th day of January 2022. Happy third Friday of the year. At 9 minutes after 6. Ndu?
Yes.
Mambo.
Poor sana, mambo.
Fiti.
Huh?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
How are things in the land of Latif?
I don't know. I haven't been there in a while.
You haven't?
Mm-mm.
You've been outside yourself.
Yes. City, how's it going?
Okay.
It's okay. Okay, it's good.
I'm actually thinking about this. You're actually really okay.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay, it's good. Okay, it's good.
Today is not as cold as yesterday.
Yeah. Mornings are not as cold.
No, today is not as cold as yesterday. Yesterday was freezing.
Okay.
Today,
it's warmer.
It is less freezing.
Not as freezing. All right.
Still cold, but not like yesterday. I don't know what happens, but by the time you have to sit in your car, in your own driveway, for some 10 minutes, just so that, you pre-start the car and preheat the car. Then you sit in there just so that your body can
to
warm
enjoy
up.
the warmth.
Yes. Aye, bueno.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody. We'll discuss very many things that are happening in the country, in the world. And let's begin with the COVID-19 spot check.
All right, looking at numbers around the world, if we start off with Kenya, there's a significant drop in the positivity rate. So it's something that is to be celebrated in whatever shape or form you want to look at it. Story being carried and said that the good and bad news on the Omicron variant. This is carried on page 13 of the Standard today, but we'll have a look at that later. Just looking at numbers coming out of the Ministry of Health, we're still trying to vaccinate as many people as possible. 813 new cases of COVID from a sample size of 6,005. Now that drops the positivity rate significantly, and we are now at 13.5%. Ministry of Health, of course, still urging as many people as possible to be vaccinated. As of the 11th of January, a total of 531 vaccines had been administered across the country.
10 million.
Yes, 10 million.
You said 1,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. 10,779,531. Those are the total number of vaccines that have been administered. Of these, 6,103,780 are partially vaccinated, while those who are fully vaccinated are 4,583,839. Another 24,910 doses have been administered to those between 15 and 18 years, while 67,002 are booster shots.
67,000
Yes.
have taken the booster shot.
Yes.
Okay.
If we look at what's happening globally, yesterday, where were we? We looked at 309 million. Folks, today, we are at 317 million global numbers. 8 million new cases of COVID-19 on a global scale. And we're still looking at those top 12 countries carrying about 80% of the world's COVID burden in terms of cases.
And these countries are...
You want me to list them for you? I can do that. Now, if this mouse will just do the right thing for me. Nevertheless, we're looking at the USA with 64 million, India with 36 million, Brazil with 22 million, the UK with 14 million, France with 12 million, Russia with 10 million, Turkey with 10 million, Italy, Spain and Germany all with 7 million, Argentina with 6 million and Iran with 6 million. The country after that is Colombia, which is just under 6 million. But we're looking at 80% of the world COVID-19 cases in these first 12 that we have numbered this morning.
That have been in those countries.
Sorry?
That have been in those countries.
Yes.
Okay, my pet column. Active cases and serious and critical.
So we're looking at 95,000, this is across the world, of serious critical cases, active cases of 49 million. Of those 49 million, 95,000 are critical, and they are being named as serious critical, right? A new 21,000 people have recovered. Total recovered is 262 million, right? So those are the numbers that we're looking at. We're still hearing calls from Fauci's office in the United States saying, okay, folks, also in line with what the World Health Organization has been saying in the last couple of days, that in as much as we saw Omicron as a mild onset in terms of symptoms, let's not take it like that anymore. We're hearing schools in the United States asking the government to shut down, saying, they're going into a new semester now, and they're asking the government, why are we going back into school when we see such a high spread of this thing? Government is being urged, and maybe a little bit more of a push is what we're likely to see in the coming days. Yesterday, we saw numbers 627,000 cases of COVID 736,000 cases of COVID. That has risen significantly by about 110,000 in a day. Yesterday, the United States recorded one of its highest ever numbers of COVID in a single day, 814,494. So can we see now why we're looking at that upsurge of global numbers of 8 million cases in one day, when you have countries contributing significantly, about 10% of that number?
So the main culprit at whom fingers are still being pointed is Omicron.
Yes. So much faster transmission, much faster infection. Initially had been said that the symptoms then in terms of severity are lower, but now the question is, we're seeing more people getting sick more rapidly, and then...
So we're saying that we're seeing cases of severity increasing.
Yes, this is what they're saying, which is why the World Health Organization came out and said, hold on a minute, guys. We thought before that it was just mild and it would mirror flu, but... a little bit more than that now.
At the beginning, when COVID first hit our shores, WHO used to actually state periodically that according to information and the knowledge we have at present, this is where we are at.
Yeah.
That particular preamble seems to have been erased from a lot of the statements that they make, because it's like we got to a point where there was a subtle understanding that we've got a handle on this thing. We figured it. Then Omicron came and the handle sort of like sped off in a different direction. If Omicron could come into play, some other variation, some other variant will come into play. The honest truth is this. We are going to be living with COVID for quite some time. Living with it, meaning it's there, we know it's there, and life continues.
Yep.
Yes.
It's 16 after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, live streaming on SpiceFM, KE, Facebook, YouTube. We're also active on Twitter and Instagram. Say hello if you're online, and we'll be saying hello to you shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
I hope you don't believe that Hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is... making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position, because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the invites says, kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
In Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 16 today. Nakuru clear at 12, highs of 28 and lows of 12. Nyeri town at 10 degrees clear this morning, highs of 25 and lows of 9. Eldoret is clear at 11. We'll see highs of 26 today. Kisumu, Mombasa, mostly clear conditions at 25, highs of 33, and we're looking at clear conditions at 25 in Malindi, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's clear in Kisumu at 19, highs of 33 and lows of 18. Kakamega, clear conditions at 16, highs of 33 and lows of 16. Let's look out into Kampala. It's partly cloudy at 19 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam, raining this morning at 27. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32. 15 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 30 in Lagos, where it's partly cloudy at 27. Cloudy conditions at 23 in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 30 today. 1 degree and sunny in early afternoon in Beijing. We'll see highs of 4 and lows of -9. It's cloudy at 2 degrees and there's a flood warning of yellow in Paris. We'll see highs of 6 and lows of 0. London is cloudy at 3. We'll see highs of 8 and lows of 3. And New York still Wednesday night, it's 3 degrees and clear. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 6 and lows of 0.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It is
94.4.
This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are online. Are you?
Machakos is well tuned this morning. That's where Bade Ashley is this morning and says, good morning. Jamal Nanjakululu says, good morning from Kakamega. James Kimanzi is tuning from Nyali in Mombasa. Stanley Gashistan, he's saying resignation is part of job creation, waiting on Eric Latiff to follow suit.
There's still time, Buana.
There's a movement in this country that keeps saying there's also still time.
Still
All
time.
of people are about time. There's a picture on socials this morning about a strapping young man. There's a picture of a strapping young man, I tell you. And Alex Mbogo says, if this is CT, hey, sina haraka ya maisha. Dun, 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 dun. Collins Kimtai Kipsat says, hello, good people, good morning. Abraham Lucorito says he's tuned in, as well as Laban Tanui Kipte, who's tuned in from Nandi County. Lucy Morioki, good morning, is tuned in from Thika. And Brian Lungu tuned in from Zambia this morning. Trinidad in the Caribbean. Kisha Melville says, good morning. Johnston Quant says, good morning from Kericho County. We see you, man. Kirui Weldon says he's tuned in from Bomet. And Kabui Daniela Dina is watching from Meru County. And from South Africa is where Amos Amu is tuned in. Rick Mwasambu is tuned in from Kilifi. Quite a number of folks online today. I see you all. Karatina also in the house. Good morning and karibu sana.
Everybody welcome. Siti, how old were you when this photo was taken?
Wow. I think 30s. Late 30s.
Late 30s?
30s, yes.
Yeah.
30s. I'd gone beyond 36.
Okay.
You
were above youth.
You don't look a day above youth.
I'd left youth a long time ago.
You don't look a minute above youth.
No. Because I'm thinking, I know I hadn't hit 40 here. I even know where this picture was taken. So, yeah.
Looked like you were singing.
No, I wasn't singing. I was actually talking. I was at Nyali Beach Hotel, I can tell you, because I know. My sister and husband were visiting from Papua New Guinea. And we were sitting, chatting, and having a drink. Yes, so I know where this picture was taken. I remember very clearly.
Bas. Just the other day.
Actually, as you correctly put it, it's just the
other day. Yeah. And like someone says, if this is just the other day, haraka ya maisha. Why?
Sina.
Why?
Allah?
Take life easy. Eat life with a big spoon.
And the impression they get is that I was taking life or eating it with a big spoon.
In fact, you hear where you are.
Allah? City.
Eating life with a big spoon.
Spade.
Even a shovel.
Today's proverb, City?
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Ovyo is what? Is avocado?
Anyhow,
Huh?
Yes,
like this, there's a word in Kikamba.
Like this, like that.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo. So, one who plants ovyo.
No, the closest interpretation of this in the English language would be garbage in, garbage
out.
Out.
That's it. You reap what you sow.
Genuinely, that's what tends to happen, because if you go around planting maize, you are most certainly going to harvest maize. So if you're expecting something else, you just keep expecting, but you'll get maize.
Panda ovyo.
Hula
ovyo.
Yes. In Kiswahili, that is easy to understand. Anakulaga ovyo.
So confused.
Why?
Hula hovyo what? Just when I thought my Swahili was doing the thing.
Your Swahili is fine.
Hula what?
Ovyo.
Hula is what now?
Wacha kukaa ovyo.
Yes.
Now do you get it?
Don't just say it nde, or don't just say it anyhowly.
But what's hula?
Hukula.
Ye na kula.
So why can't you just say kula?
No.
Okay, sawa basi.
Why do
Eat is not eat.
Oh, it's like present continuous, right? Yeah, that's where we are. It's present continuous.
It is present continuous.
If you had said that, then we would
you thought it was what, the passive tense?
I wasn't sure if we were looking at the past participle.
Or present continuous tense.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Okay.
Umtalisoma linguistics now. We're the bouncing board this morning.
Okay, let's look at the headlines in the papers. Start.
Oh, I was waiting for you to do the thing.
Okay.
Why are you guys worried? I can start for you. Yes. All right. This is now looking at the Star. Kalonzo team pushes for poll deal with Raila. Okay?
Kalonzo what?
Team. Pushes for poll deal with Raila. I'm not going to expound on it.
Have you read that story? Who's written that story?
No, I'm not reading the story. I'm just reading the headline and I'm leaving it there. Because to expound on it would be to have a discussion I don't really want to have. I'm just saying it is the headline. The story,
Kalonzo team pushes for?
Poll deal. Poll as in election with Raila. Yes. So let's leave it there. Okay. Let's look at what I really want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Page 2.
Can I just contradict what there's a different story in the Standard about that Kalonzo Raila thing.
Please continue.
So Kalonzo is the leader of Wiper, isn't he?
He has always been for quite some time.
And the vice chairman of Wiper is Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the senator from Makueni County. So he and other leaders of Wiper were addressing a meeting yesterday. And Mutula Kilonzo Jr. dismissed reports that Kalonzo had agreed to support the candidature of ODM leader Raila Odinga and would join Azimio la Umoja movement campaigns in Thika on Saturday before heading to Kitui. He says those are rumors. There's nothing like that. Kalonzo is going to be on the ballot.
Oh.
Okay. We will see when he gets to the ballot. It is okay.
Indeed.
Now, can I talk about what I want to talk about? Thank you. This is on page 2 of the Star. Right? Hopes dim as Bondo miner remains buried in collapsed mine 40 days later. Hopes of finding Tom Okwach alive are dimming more than a month after a gold mine collapsed and buried him in Siaya. Today will be the 42nd day since Okwach 25 was buried alive at the Abimbo gold mine in Bondo in December Terembili, 2nd last year. He was with other miners. 2 of them died while 6 others were rescued. Of those rescued, 3 survived, were pulled out alive after 6 days inside the earth.
So this is the one who got buried after the mine collapsed on the 2nd of December.
Yeah.
And to date, in fact, remember the bulldozer owner withdrew the bulldozer. The county government was running out of petrol. The local administration was saying this and the other.
And they were talking about national
And the
government.
family is still camping there. I mean, saying, we just want to see our kin. Whatever the case, we want to see our relative. It's very...
This is how it goes. We are told that the SIA Administration and Governance Chief Officer George Onyango said that 6.3 million shillings was last week approved for use, January, was approved for use in the rescue mission. Now, here comes the clincher. However, there is a committee that handles the cash, not the family.
Mm-hmm.
The amount was approved by the County Disaster Management Committee, meaning one exists, a week ago. But we do not give it to the family. Now, does this thing make sense to you?
What was the fund for?
It's a disaster management, Danny.
Okay. To do what?
Rescue mission.
To remove him from the inside?
Everything that is required for a rescue mission, 6.37 million was approved.
Okay, and it came out. The funds were actually released, or it was just approved? There was a difference.
It was approved.
It was approved. Okay, and that's about the size of it.
It was approved.
Okay.
Everybody has a lot to say. Work is going on. The county government is continuously supporting the rescue mission. The mine caves are ice cold due to water. There are all sorts of stories. You see, why I chose this particular story is, and why I'm reading it. By the way, I'm reading it sequentially. The things I'm saying follow the other. I'm not picking one item and then jumping on to yet another paragraph. I'm following them. There is a disaster management committee, which means there's a disaster management unit. Because you can't have a committee without a structure that you're committeeing over. How do you explain the existence of such a committee, and yet in the articles I have read and in the stories that we've come across, not just with Bondo, but with other areas where we've had mining problems, structures that ensure that basic safety measures when you are in the business of mining are taken care of. You do not read of it. Because if that were the case, the moment the mine collapsed, you'd be told, in such situations, this is what is done, this is how we go about it, and this is what... Everything you hear is sketchy. And it's like everything went back and forth, national government is not helping, this is not... Then suddenly 6.37. Why 6.37 and not 6.4? Why is it 6.37 and not even 9.6? Why? These figures, what exactly are you talking about? For people to understand what you're doing, I don't understand mining. Most Kenyans have no clue. Break it down, for heaven's sakes, that they can understand. And by the way, mining is not just taking place in these areas that we hear of. We're going to hear of them because disaster that is following these so-called mining processes.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who was also rescued after 3 days in a mine.
Yes.
The story was carried yesterday, a couple of days ago.
Yes.
So we're seeing more and more of this happening, obviously, because these disasters are taking place. But I don't think that there has been such a bungling of a situation akin to what's happening in Siaya with this in recent history. This probably has to be the worst bungling of any situation from the very beginning, until you even have a situation where county government has all but washed its hands of this. You're saying that money has been approved, right? And then you're not explaining what it's for. The family spent Christmas, the festivity period, camped at that place, hoping that something would happen. Can you imagine what was going through their minds when the private individual said, you know what, there's nothing more I can do here, and then he exits? And they're waiting and hoping that government would at least help in one way or another. Because let's not run away from the fact that this mine, this excavation, was a government-approved project.
It's all very Juakali now in thinking, in operations and everything. Basically, just the entire mining operation in that belt is Juakali. And so even the government treats it as Juakali. And Juakali just means
do what
sort
you
yourself.
Like.
Where you sort. And it's very unfortunate. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take a quick break. How are the roads looking like? Let's find out. We'll look at other newspaper headlines shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up.
ABSA was very responsive when COVID came about. And one of the things that we worked together on was for them to give us a facility to enable us buy materials in huger volumes than we were buying.
ABSA introduced a product to us known as the Trade Management Online. It's fast and it's safe. ABSA has helped us bring our possibilities to life, hence making us a home of quality.
All right, a lot will change in half an hour on these Nairobi streets. We're looking at traffic building up on Jogo Road, going towards the roundabouts at the City Stadium. Speaking of the Nyeri Stadium, that's where traffic starts on Uhuru Highway this morning. But it's not too bad. We're seeing also it looking free and clear off Langata Road. A little bit of traffic in that community area coming off of Ngong Road this morning. And we're seeing some traffic coming out of Westlands, as is the usual state of things on Waiyaki Way. The Thika Superhighway is also building up right around Muthui Square, but other parts of the city, not too terrible. We can see the build-up of inbound traffic on Limuru Road this morning. Juja Road also is treading towards the nightmarish. Outer Ring, not too bad. It's flowing freely, but like we said, Juja Road is building up, so it looks like folks are waking up now. If you haven't left, now might be a good time to do so. And if you're already on the roads, you'll get where you're going within minutes. Let's talk about what the situation looks like shortly. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes to 7. So a sad funeral took place yesterday in Masi, Nga village, Masi, Machakos County. A couple of days ago, we spoke of a story that was in the papers where two girls were killed allegedly by their father somewhere in Kinango, Kwale County. And it was in the evening after it is reported that the man had quarreled with his wife. The wife had taken off, and then the man got enraged. He slit his two children's throats.
His two daughters, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Two daughters, aged 7 and 5, on the 2nd of January at their Taru home. So they were buried yesterday. And the circumstances surrounding this whole incident, if you just look back into what was it that was happening in this home, why were they arguing? They were arguing about some money that, the father and the mother were arguing over, and then the mother left. The father was left there. The father killed the children. It's a domestic issue. It's a financial issue. It's a mental health issue, probably. All these things just point to what's happening in the country, like we keep talking about. It's our mental health watch. Everybody who was speaking yesterday was saying, these two young girls, they died, they were dressed in matching African print, their festive season, it was their Christmas best.
Right.
And then they just died. People were saying, if you adults are, fighting or you are disagreeing, keep the children out of it. But even then, how do you keep children out of it?
That's their existence, we must be honest.
Yeah.
That if there's domestic quarrels, they're happening in a domestic setting, and children are going to be privy to it. How do you keep it out? And I can hear the call to say, don't do this in front of children. Don't
touch the children.
Yeah, I can understand that. But then how do you manage it best is probably then what should be looked at. Because this is what we're talking about now. See, Eric, unfortunately, when you're looking at the death and burial, that's the end of it.
Yep.
This is not where the whole process began. Now, are there mechanisms in place to be able to sound out things like this and start to talk about them and start to deal with them? For every of these bizarre things that we've seen over the last 1.5 years, let's just use 1.5 years, because it becomes more intense. The reporting of it also becomes more frequent. And if the reporting is frequent, then we also know that the cases are more. Every case that has made its way into the headlines, and even those that have not, if you looked at it critically, you would then be able to see the progression you would then be able to pinpoint where did it start. Because when we read the stories, don't we often also read that there's somebody in the neighborhood who said, yeah, we know that they would argue a lot. We saw that he was acting in a funny manner. We saw that she would often do one or the other. So there's a progression of it. Now, it is at that time that something needs to be done about it. Unfortunately, by the time they're dead and buried, they're dead and buried. Can something be done beforehand? Are there mechanisms that can be suggested? At the very basic unit of society, something can be done. We're just not doing it. It's just not happening.
These children just become a statistic.
It's a number.
They are a number. They are a number to the government. They are a number to very many institutions. They'll just say, okay, yeah, children have been killed, issues of domestic violence. The man himself, their father, Muthui, has been arraigned in court. So he also becomes a statistic in the system. We have several ongoing court cases of domestic violence and gender-based violence.
Just joins the queue. There was this talk about setting up counseling centers around the country for police officers. Does any of you know what became of it?
No.
I mean, there was a mention.
We also heard of it. We heard about it also when the gentleman from Internal Affairs was here and talked about that they were seeking funding to have that done. But I have not heard about it thereafter.
Nothing much is happening.
No.
There was a story in the papers yesterday about a police officer somewhere in the coast who locked himself up in his quarters, held a G3 rifle, pinned it to his chin, and pressed the trigger. Died. And his colleagues wondering, okay, so exactly what happened?
Part of this process lies in helping people understand certain basics of what you may call mental health situations, okay? Or indicators that someone's mental health may not be what it ought to be. So that even a layperson, and that's the bulk of us, can easily point and say, there's a problem. Ordinarily, even without training, you can tell so-and-so is not behaving the way they normally behave.
Yeah, there's something odd.
Precisely. This person is not quite right. But then, beyond acknowledging and pointing out, what steps are taken thereafter is completely absent. It's like we are captured by a certain state of helplessness where, okay, yeah, you may see it, but then what can you do?
Ndu, what are you looking at?
Okay, so Ion Huru as Natembeya exits, or rather begins his exit, and it's giving rise to the story about how several people who are sitting in official positions in government will be resigning in the next few weeks. Although the official quit date for state officers joining politics is 3 weeks away, more big names are expected to follow in the footsteps of Natembeya, who is walking. CS Charles Keter, CAS Patrick Ntutu, CAS Lawrence Karaja, CAS Ababu Namwamba, CAS John Musonik, PS Hamadi Boga, PS Fred Segur, CS Simon Chilugai, and CS Ukuriatani. So these are just some of the names. And so it's called a dilemma, as half of the cabinet is set to quit to vie for political positions. President Uhuru Kenyatta is facing a dilemma, as half of them are about to resign as the ministers seek to chart their political destiny. In the next 3 weeks, the president, who is serving the last year of his tenure, must decide whether to pick a new team to replace those who will quit or work with half the cabinet. He will also decide whether to order those eyeing elective seats to vacate office or wait until his tenure ends. His deputy, William Ruto, elected with him on a Jubilee ticket, is in the race to succeed him at State House. Cabinet secretaries and other public officials seeking elective seats have 22 days to leave office ahead of the August 9th general election. So of those names that we've mentioned, from devolution, mining and petroleum, labour, Peter Munya, agriculture, Cecily Karaoke, water, are believed to be nursing political ambitions. If they confirm that they're taking the plunge, they will be expected to leave office by the second week of February. Ms. Karaoke has remained cagey about her bid for Nyandarua governorship. She will face off against Governor Francis Kimemia if she decides to take the plunge into the murky waters of politics. So this is the question that's then being faced by the president. Will I have to appoint an interim cabinet? Will I ask these folks to stay on even if they are seeking these elective posts? Or are we just going to shut down the whole thing and say, let's move until August in that way?
In 6 months'
In
time.
6 months' time. So if these individuals, some of whom have been mentioned and some of them who have not been, according to law, they should actually resign and then face their political ambition. But then what happens to the very important jobs that then are supposed to be done by them if they're not going to be in office for the next 6 months? What happens is the question.
Yeah, how do you ensure continuity? It's a tough one, this one. I've seen, Gatondo South MP Moses Kuria is among those who have weighed in on this conversation. He posted the other day and said, you know what, how about we just amend the law and allow people to take leave? Go seek election if you're a public servant or state officer. Go seek election. Should you fail, you are free to resume office. Now, of course, in the case of appointed officers like these ones in the cabinet, if you flop, it depends on whether the new president wants you back. But if you're a cabinet secretary and even if you took leave to go and campaign, you'd not be working. You're away. Somebody else ought to be doing your job.
Exactly.
It's hard. And if you stay in office, then there's a whole issue of abuse of office. Are you using state resources to your advantage in the campaigns?
Whilst you're being paid a salary for a job that essentially you will not be concentrating on.
Yeah.
You know, ask yourself, this dialectical dilemma here. Someone is a high-ranking government official.
Yes.
Takes a leave of absence, goes campaigns, loses, goes back to his office. What do you think is going to happen to the people?
That's he lost to.
Yes.
So let's say Natembea. Natembea is a regional commissioner for the Rift Valley.
Yes.
Okay. The county that he's seeking election in is
Wasingishu.
No.
No, is it the other one?
The other one. What's it called? Check there. The one in Kitale as the headquarters. What's it called?
Trans-Nzoia.
Right?
Yes.
It's Trans-Nzoia. He comes back as regional commissioner after losing an election.
Tell me.
Do you think he'll come back vindictive? No, seriously. Come on.
Where?
Okay, it's the same thing that we would say. Let's look at C.S. Munya. He is a minister. He lost an election in Meru. Has he been vindictive against the people of Meru?
Munya didn't lose anything.
What do you mean he didn't lose anything?
He stopped being governor and became minister.
They gave him a CS position.
Yes.
Yeah, but he still remembers. He wanted to be governor.
He is in the system.
He is a minister.
Yes, it's
for
big
agriculture.
Country mzima, not
Country
Meru.
Mzima.
Whole
and Meru
Kenya.
Is an agricultural county.
All I'm saying is, Munya is a good example in that soft landing. Okay? Yeah, it appears like you lost, but not really. You simply just moved. Okay? If you lose, there is no soft landing. Okay?
You're out, man.
It is now you and the debts you incurred. Okay? My friend. And then you are taken back to your previous position.
Yes.
First of all, you want to recoup all the money that you spent in the election, just to start off with.
But you have a basic salary.
You're a senior government official.
You're
You want that money irudi.
Maybe not.
Even as
Maybe you're just a county commissioner.
The moment the political bug gets someone, that thing you don't get out of your system quickly. It's a virus. It doesn't come out.
City, are you saying that somebody who has sought political office should not work in the public service?
I am saying, make up your mind. Make up your mind.
Somebody who has previously sought political office, can they serve in public? Is it okay for them to serve public office?
Somebody who had previously sought office but was not in public service, can they
then join public service?
We have a system where the president gets to appoint people. So that opportunity exists within that sphere. But if you're talking about what these permanent and pensionable civil servants, somebody wants to vie for a political position. They've shown an interest in politics.
Yes.
They want to vie.
Yes.
And then you're saying, Just change a little clause so that they can actually get back their position. That is the worst mistake we could make, because somebody who has tasted defeat has very many wrongs they want to right. Many.
Has learned many lessons.
Our political processes can be very humiliating, whether you win or not. When you lose, it's worse. Okay? And then there's money which you've lost. You've sold houses, you've done what? All these things that you've done. And there are people who, when they're in government services, pile up money knowing very well that this thing can have consequences. So let me get into politics. At least it gives me some sort of safeguard. Now, when that quest fails, and then you take that person back to the previous job, what do you think is going to happen?
Let's discuss this further.
Indeed.
Yeah, we'll even take calls on this.
If necessary.
Yeah. It's 10 minutes to 7. Time for a quick break, and then we come back and look at more headlines in the papers.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
So,
Nairobi.
updates from the Lamu land clashes. Let's just call them what they are, right? The CS for Interior, Dr. Engineer Karanja Kepicho, was touring Lamu yesterday, and its story is given some coverage on page 12 of the Standard today. Interior PS Karanja Kepicho says an ongoing security operation in Lamu County will not dampen prospects of trade through the new Lamu port. He was speaking in Mombasa, where he said the operation to flush out militants behind the recent attacks would continue until Lamu County is pacified. The government has put in place all measures to secure Lamu. The massive security operation underway should not scare away investors. He says the government is deploying all available efforts in the world to repulse the perpetrators behind the recent attacks. The Interior PS led a team on a tour of government projects in Mombasa and Kwale. And he says, you know what? Whatever is happening in Lamu, it'll be sorted.
No biggie.
It'll be sorted, you know.
The
question is, how many more people need to die? If the issue is land and tribal, is there a conversation that's actually taking place to address it? Because this is land. This Likoni, Enosupukia, Molo, same was up. Same.
It is.
Same.
Do you know how long the residents of Mpeketoni and the neighboring areas have been residents of that area?
There are people who don't know any other home.
It's generations.
Yes, exactly. There are two generations who actually do not know any other place. Now, you're telling me, after all these years, we saw when these problems began.
Yep.
And you know, it began after LabSet had been set in motion and the issues of the port were fast becoming a reality. Suddenly, there were these flare-ups. People who have been living all their lives. No, you know that story, you actually can't tell me that it is tribal. The communities didn't move into those areas last week.
No, they didn't. They've been there.
Yes. And you know what? There's a symbiotic relationship. Many of the people who live in some of those places, they are not active members of the blue economy. Not really. They are farmers.
No, they're farmers. It's
and traders.
Agricultural based.
Okay? And part of the reason why groups of people were moved there was because there were swaths of land uninhabited. People wanted to move to make way, not really. The land was there.
Yep.
And by the way, in case people forgot, it's part of Kenya. Okay? And the government of the day and the government has a right to determine what it is it wants to do with its land. If that land had had issues right from the very beginning, we would have heard of communities, as we hear of communities who have been moved from certain forests that they lived in. They tell you we were inhabitants. This was our place.
Yep.
And now these changes have brought about these adverse effects. Anyway.
You know, I think at some point we need to have this honest conversation as a country, and even on this show. Look, because the conversation that's happening in Lamu, what we have seen in other parts of the country, even in those Enosupukia clashes in Narok and elsewhere, is about a minority, a majority, and indigenous.
Yes.
Where the indigenous people suddenly become a minority. in a place where they've lived. And the people who have come now to, let's call them the settler community, become a majority.
Yes.
And the issue of leadership. Now, should the settlers and the indigenous people work out a mechanism on leadership? Or should we just say, democracy dictates, majority carries the day, minority has their say? Because that's what has happened. In fact, we've had here a conversation with the senator for Narok County, the Demo Lekina, saying, come, live, come, invest, come, own land, come, be our neighbors. But when it comes to leadership, please.
Let us have it.
That is not an honest conversation. You know why it's not an honest conversation?
It's the same conversation with this gentleman who's been sought by the DCI in Lamu.
Yes. If you look at all the counties we have, this understanding of representation is something that is intimately understood. You go to any county where the language spoken is more or less homogeneous, you will find that with the county government, they will tell you a position of a speaker, we're going to give so-and-so because so-and-so is governor. Deputy can't come from where the governor comes from, this sub-county. It has to come from this place. That balancing is something we understand well. It is clearly understood. Now, I'm talking about communities where the language which is spoken, the homogeneity, is not something which is in doubt. They are the majority and it is theirs.
Yes.
So now, are you telling me that where people are mixed, that arithmetic doesn't work? Look at a county like, say, Nakuru, because Nakuru has a really lovely mix. Look at the way they balance it.
Right.
Deputy governor, speaker, the same balancing act. It's understood. And you know what that balancing act is? Communities who are resident in that county get political representation at the top. Now, you're certainly trying to tell me that this is not something that is understood. It's understood. Now, so you have to ask yourself, how then do we move from this thing that seems to have been understood and structured? How then do you get to a place where now the response seems to be violence and trying to evict people?
I think the understanding is one issue, but also the who gets the bigger position
is another one.
Is the different conversation. Because look at what's happening, for example, in Lamu County. The senator is not an indigenous. The governor is. There's a constituency in Lamu where it is the settler community that have an elected member.
Yes.
Mombasa, we had a conversation here with Naomi Sidi. Remember, we were talking about the indigenous people of the coast. It's time for the indigenous coastals. And we are arguing here, so who is indigenous? How far back do we go to establish who is indigenous?
Yes.
So in Mombasa County itself, is it the Waswahili? Who are the indigenous people? Is it the Arabs?
If you
look at the mix of Mombasa,
why don't
if the governor is this, then the deputy governor must be a Griama.
Let me give you, not even a Griama, let me give you a historical tidbit. If you are talking about communities that are indigenous, Bedigo, if they were to trace their heritage, it actually stops at Marikiti. Okay? Post office, Mombasa, Marikiti. Going all the way to Likoni onwards. That historically is Digo land. So, if you're talking about who should be governor of Mombasa, you would argue it ought to be a Digo. Then come the Griama, who have numbers.
Yes.
Okay?
Then you'll find out the Swahili will say, but we have nowhere else.
Well, they are...
Digo at least have Kwale. We don't have...
Now you see...
arguments.
See, I'm talking about numbers.
Yes.
Okay? If you happen to be Swahili, you happen to have origins in Arabia, in that whole peninsula, suddenly you're a minority and suddenly you almost have no voice. So some understanding has to come in and say, folks, so that people don't feel marginalized, this is how we ought to go about it. It's a delicate balance, but it's not a balance that is not understood.
But it's conversations that need to be had.
Continuously.
Yes.
Continuously. If you let people make up their minds and take directions, they'll go in the wrong direction because there'll be some mischievous individuals who, for their own self-interest, will want to portray a certain narrative and they are going to stick with that narrative.
Narok is having issues.
Narok will continue having issues as you know something, you know that borderline, Chepalungu area, there, Kisii, Kipsigis.
Kipsigis.
Buana.
Many. We'll continue these conversations in coming hours. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM. We are also live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Wherever you're tuned in, we are glad that you are online in the country or around Africa or around the world. Say hello. We always like to say hello back at you. So in the next hour and the next hours of the show, we have several conversations. Hate speech, this whole issue of minority, majority, and resignations from public service. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has called for peace in a bid to achieve economic growth as the country readies itself for the August general elections. The president asked Kenyans to love one another and unite during the electioneering period, saying this will serve to develop the country. The head of state made the remarks in Mbita town in Homa Bay County during an impromptu visit to inspect the progress of the degrading of Mbita Causeway Bridge. President Kenyatta said peaceful coexistence will enable his government to fulfill pledges made to Kenyans when he was seeking votes. He promised to visit the region soon while accompanied by other leaders including Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga. TRTA Member of Parliament William Kamket has expressed relief for the resignation of former Rift Valley Regional Police Commissioner George Natembeya. This comes after Natembeya announced that he is leaving the police service after more than 25 years to venture into politics as he seeks to clinch the Trans Nzoia gubernatorial seat at the August general election. According to Kamket, Natembeya will not be missed as far as law enforcement and security matters in the Rift Valley region are concerned.
To begin with, I want to say congratulations to you. Congratulations for taking that very bold step in order to try and join us in politics. But at the same time, I also want to say good riddance. I think as his former subject, I think I am happy that he's left the field to other more competent Kenyans. I welcome him to the field of politics. I do not know about RC Natembeya or former RC Natembeya's track record as DC, but I've known him as RC for a little under 2 years that he was promoted here in Rift Valley. But I can say without any prediction that George Natembeya, for the period he has been the regional commissioner, unfortunately, he has presided over a reign of terror in the Rift Valley.
Now, Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga is now calling for intensified security patrols along the Meru-Isiolo border, where recent clashes claimed 7 lives. Odinga, who attended the mass burial for the 7 victims in Tigania, East Meru County, called on Meru and Isiolo residents to live in harmony and set aside their differences. Odinga blamed ethnic differences for the deaths and vowed to push for unity in the region, but first have security patrols along the border. Deputy President William Ruto has asked his opponents to stop employing threats and intimidation to advance their agenda. He said his opponents' scare tactics will have no bearing in the August polls. He noted that the Hustler Nation remains firm in its resolve to unite and transform the country. Speaking during the tour of Nairobi County, Ruto said it is time the country moved away from retrogressive politics. Now, the battle for control and influence in Ukambani region continues to play in the public gallery as the region's governors Alfred Muthui of Machakos, Kivutha Kibwana Makueni and Kitui's Charity Ngilu downplayed Kalonzo Musyoka's planned meeting scheduled for this weekend at his Yatta home in Machakos County. The governors argued that the planned meeting must be conducted in a public venue. Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., however, maintained that the 3 governors who have since shown their allegiance to ODM leader Raila Odinga and his Azimio la Umoja movement have no major impact in Ukambani as compared to Musyoka.
Mkutano wa viongozi unapangwa mahali watu wako, mkutano unaoitwa kwa nyumba ya mtu, that is not a political meeting of leaders. Hiyo ni New Year's party.
We are not just to go anywhere because kuna mtu amesemekana akienda mbele wale wengine watafuata. Each one of us is important and we have to sit down and talk about what is on the table for our people.
Governors have been invited to the Yatta meeting, and the last one, the answer is no. We have seen the rumors circulating that either the party leader of Wiper is going to quit the presidential race or is going to join Azimio. Those sort of things are not part and parcel of why we have called for that meeting.
To sports end, Mali completed a 1-0 victory over Tunisia in a controversial Group F game at the Africa Cup of Nations that was ended prematurely by referee Gianni Sikazwe, who later tried to play the final 4 minutes only for the North Africans to refuse. Zambian Sikazwe, who officiated at the 2018 World Cup in Russia, initially blew for the final whistle on 85 minutes and as he got his timekeeping all wrong. But after playing on, he then repeated the error when he blew the full time once more before the clock had ticked off to the 90 minutes. Tunisia were furious and officials stormed the pitch in protest, but the man of the match trophy was handed out at the post-match news conferences in full swing before Confederation of African Football CAF officials decided the remaining minutes should be played. Mali came out onto the pitch to play 40 minutes after the controversy began, but Tunisia refused to play on and Sikazwe ended the game for a third time. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's building up on Uhuru Highway this morning, getting into the CBD, and all roads are feeding onto Uhuru Highway. We're looking at Langata and Lusaka. We're looking at Kenyatta Avenue, looking at State House Road, all the way through to Westlands. In and outbound traffic has started and is a thing this morning. Looking pretty sticky as well, coming out of Westlands on Waiaki Way, and that whole Kileshwa out towards the Arboretum onto Chiromo. That doesn't look pretty at all. My goodness, if you thought the Thika Superhighway did not have any traffic, think again, because in about 20 minutes, everything has changed and we have a lot of inbound traffic there this morning on Kiambu Road as well, and Limuru Road has done the thing this morning. In and out of Parklands, not too bad, at least not for now. We're looking at traffic on Jogo Road coming off of Juja Road and into the city. This morning. It started as far back as Sabaki on Mombasa Road going towards the SGR, and that's going to go and ebb and flow until we get to about 8:30. So let's keep an eye on things this morning. Help us out, guys. What do you see in your neck of the woods? Talk to us on Spice FM. KE.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 7. Good morning. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room on Spice FM. Also live streaming the show online. CT Muga has the day's proverb.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo. Ovyo, ovyo.
Mpanda ovyo, hula oreo.
There's a proverb. A little variation is permitted.
Oreo. He said Oreo.
Ile biskuti.
Ile kona siagi katikati.
Ile siagi ya cream.
Ile siagi ya cream.
Guy, what am I going to do with two of you?
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Yes.
Hey, how do you translate that?
Simply, garbage in, garbage out. Put it very simply. Yes.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Ndu ventured and said, you reap what you sow.
It was Eric.
No, we can
Yes.
assign that to you for now.
Ni sawa basi.
Eric said it, but I have attributed it.
It's okay. It's all right. It's good.
Is that better now?
Yes. Thank you.
Sindio?
Eh.
Sindio?
Eh.
Safi kabisa. Nessa. Still watching live from Nyeri, Mombasa is MCA James Muli Kimanzi. You know, yesterday when we had the guest Ambassador Kokimuli, and she was referring to that position, a number of times she said MCR.
She said MCR.
And I looked at her and I thought, okay, wait.
MCR.
I went to Machakos after here. I was attending a funeral service. And there were local leadership. Of course, you know, in these things, local leadership must speak. And the local MCA was also present. And the MC called the MCR.
MCR.
To come and address me. And people laughed. It's MCR.
Yes, but it's correct.
It's A.
MC and yes, it's in.
MCR?
Yes.
So it's Ukambani MCR. Is the one.
They have it right.
Matter of MCR. So MCR, James Muli Kimanzi, watching from Nyeri, Mombasa. Good morning. We can't call him MCA.
No, not anymore.
No. Pewa Glamondo. You know that song? Do?
Me, I don't know the song.
Alex Kasau.
I do
Katombi.
not. Wouldn't you
It's
be a
called
bit worried if
Pewa,
I do?
Pewa.
If I did.
Even and then mana kana nembesa nunasa pewa Glamondo.
Is it one of those
Okay,
high speed? Is that one of those high speed songs that emanate from that particular region?
Is there a slow speed song in Kamba that you
No, I'm just asking because that thing there's no on your mark set. It's just
Aerobics.
go and
no warm up,
and they are off.
There's no warm up or cool down.
It's those songs we were talking about yesterday. It's about life. This song is about life. Kula pesa.
Kila mundo.
You have money.
Kula.
Pewa. In fact, he goes on to say, in Kikamba, people call him Bazu. Nayo mitoto. Nayo niwa. Yamita uncle. The ladies call him uncle. Nayo mitoto. Nayo niwa. Yamita
You must fear
uncle.
village uncles. So. Beg.
What? Yeah, let's talk about something that's in the papers here. Page 3 of the Standard has a report on what the latest is with regards to the NCIC and curbing hate speech. Kericho Senator Aaron Cheruyot appeared before the NCIC yesterday over remarks deemed to border on racism and incitement. The senator is accused of making the remarks during the UDA rally in Eldoret on January 8th, where he is said to have spoken in Kalenjin language, castigating the locals for electing Keses MP Mishra Swarup Ranjan, aka Kiprop, in 2017. He allegedly questioned how the MP of Indian descent came to Eldoret in 97 with only one trouser and a bag and has now built a business empire. He says, I was not being condescending at all in any way. In this country, telling an elected leader to go home means that he should not be voted in. It's something many Kenyans know. When I say go home, and I'm wondering how you came here with just a trouser and a bag in just the other day, 97, you should go home. I'm not talking about you going now where you came from. I'm just saying, like what the MP for Kisumu town he said, all of us should go home.
Or like one Ndolo, who was then an elected member within this lovely county, said,
Weka taya.
Mimi nilisema.
Sikusema weka taya ati now you lynch somebody the way lynching happens.
No.
Weka taya sababu kuna matope so that this person can find place to step.
Those are the images of, if you want to know what reverse gear looks like, there it is.
We always find explanations being given.
Yes, after.
And somebody comes in to say, but this is not what I meant. I mean, it's your interpretation, but what my intent was is this and the other. The Honorable Moses Kuria, Gatondo South MP, has had several cases going to court. And when it goes to court, there's one he talked about pangas and, you know, let's use our pangas, let's use He goes and says, no, I mean, my area is agricultural. People use panga, so I have to use imagery that resonates. NCIC has a tough job. And like we had a conversation here with the NCIC Commissioner, Dr. Devon. He was telling us it's getting to that point where we see, okay, so how do you take this case to court and let it hold? The ODPP will receive a file, he'll look at the file and he'll say, okay, from what I see here, if I go to court, really, can I convince a judge or magistrate that there was hate speech here, that there was incitement here, that this was the intention? Would I need to get other people in the community to say that this is the interpretation that we got, and then prove that there's a large part of the community that got this interpretation and therefore there was intention to incite?
You see, it starts to border on ambiguity and then being difficult in order to be able to figure out, right? In some world, you can see the difficulty that a commission would have trying to be able to find fault or to find somebody guilty. But how do you disprove that? Those examples that you have given previously, when I said work attire, and then people may have taken it to mean this, then I come and explain to you, actually, no, what I meant was put tires on the road so that somebody could pass. As ridiculous as it sounds, can you disprove that that was my meaning?
Actually, I'm saying you can.
Can you discount my intent is something that belongs to me, as I have it inside. I can't prove it. I can't prove my intent to you. Neither can you cajole it out of me. You can't. That's why courts of law often say, and they talk about the inability to prove or disprove based on intent, unless there is a subsequent action. If I sat in a restaurant, for example, with CT and we're having a conversation, I talked about how somebody really pissed me off and I'm going to kill her, and then this person ends up dead tomorrow, who do you think they're going to come and pick up? And then CT then was a bit superfluous at the mouth and said, actually, I had lunch with her yesterday and she said she was going to kill this person, and this person said, who do you think the first person they would pick up would be? Me, right? Because I talked about what I wanted to do, and then by some ill fate, this person ended up dead. Not going to happen, right? But it's very difficult if you say something and it's just floating in the air and then there's no subsequent action on that thing. How then do you now pick up the pieces and say, actually, you know what? I'm going to be able to charge you on this. What are you charging exactly? That I said it? Okay, so what happened as a result of me saying it? So I can see the difficulty in terms of getting something done about it. Look at other cases where things were actually done. Right? Look at the cases that we see tried before the Hague-based courts. Based on things that people said in Rwanda, you saw rape, you saw murder, you saw pilfering, you saw thievery, you saw all kinds of things. Because somebody said, this is what I think ought to happen, and then you had people going and doing something about it, right? And then you could trace it back directly to what an individual said. You had women, men, anybody, people who used media. But then here you are and you say something before a crowd of people. Nothing necessarily happens thereafter. How then do you track back and say, you know what? Because Eric said this thing at this rally, we are encouraging him not to. But then what we can give you is a slap on the wrist, because really, nothing really happened as a result of what he said.
But you see, remember the example that were given by the NCIC commissioner? And he was talking about CT coming to tell Eric about what Ndu says about Eric.
Yes.
No, was it not? Because Eric was taking action against CT.
Yeah, Eric actually did something because of what he heard that Ndu said.
Yes. So is it after, if Eric takes action, that's when now you can go and say, you incited.
Yes, because
but now this is after the fact.
But usually is after the fact. But what are we trying?
But the fact should have been the incitement.
That's it.
Not the action.
But the incitement, if you don't have something that you can pick and say, oh, this happened because he said this, or because he incited. Because incitement, once it's in somebody's mind, is just that. It's incitement. You cannot say that it has gone on to something else if there's no action thereafter. Look at all court cases are things that you're trying after the fact. Isn't it? Every single court case is not something that's currently happening. You can't take somebody to court for something that they're doing at the moment. No. That's why you have
something
things
they have
like,
done. Like
they've
said.
done it. There are investigations that are going on. People are gathering little bits of information. It's after the fact, right?
But the fact
and the
here is
reason
the action of the individual that you're taking to court.
No.
Not the fact that, this person that you hit then died.
Yes,
that's
but then
secondary.
Yes, I said something, right?
Yes.
But then how do you know what my intent was? Which is my point. Without a subsequent action based on that thing that I said.
Because you've defined what hate speech is.
Right. But now, if I come to you and you see, but this is the contention for folks now. This is the contention that why did it take the DCI, for example, or the DPP to then push DCI to make these arrests?
Because there was
why can't it just be that the minute that thing is said, it's no question that there is an arrest? Why must there be this cajoling or insistence to do something about it?
I think the DPP issuing instructions, that is not really cajoling. It's the DPP doing the job. DPP is aware of information. He brings it to the attention of the investigating agency. There was a whole confusion and argument whether the DPP should be directing the EACC or should be directing the Inspector General of Police. Let's say the investigative agency is police. So the DPP is aware of information. He sees information. I've seen something going on social media, and the DPP does not first call, have you started investigation? He just does his job. Assuming that there is no investigation that's taking place, I directed to conduct an investigation into this matter. Why? Because there is a law that defines hate speech. There's a law that establishes NCIC, and there's a law that defines hate speech and says hate speech is information is words that could be inflammatory, that could incite, that insulting of a community. In fact, you even remember the NCIC saying we even moved from community even into individual. Hate speech.
Okay, but where I'm coming from. If we look at these cases historically, from individuals who said things everywhere, what have they gotten? A slap on the wrist, and that has been it, really. Maybe more severe, and then you get a bail bond. You pay whatever for bail, and then you are allowed to go, and then probably that case is going to get lost in the belly of the court system, and it's going to stay there for a very long time.
Yep.
And so a lot of what then it's been translated as a slap on the wrist, and nothing is really going to happen because folks have been able to explain their way out of this based on this thing of intent. So that's why certain things happen as a result of that. The NCIC then is seen as a toothless commission because what are you guys really going to be able to do? And it's unfortunate, but it would appear as though, as grave as it sounds, that a commission is waiting for something to happen as a result of what somebody says before we can see any kind of serious action. That even when we are privy to these things, we see them, somebody was arrested, somebody was summoned, they came and they gave their statement. That's about the size of it. It's not going to go beyond that. Because what are you going to do? Somebody's going to give you a ridiculous reason or explanation, and you're going to say, oh, okay, well, it's actually true. He may have meant that he was putting tires down in the mud for somebody to walk. Oh, all right. That's what we meant. Really?
Let me read you what Moses Kuria posted yesterday on his social media. There's no point charging the politicians because the High Court has already declared Section 96 of the Criminal Procedure Code, incitement to violence and disobedience to the law, unconstitutional. That ruling still stands. The only punishment that the politicians are suffering is the pre-plea detention and the higher bail terms. And then he goes ahead to say, as a reformed ranking member of this ignominious club, who had charges in 2014, 2015, 2016 and 2017 and were all acquitted, I can only say the ultimate solution is self-regulation among the political class and adherence to a code of conduct. So many cases going before court and then they are not able to stand. Yet we have all these definitions. We have definitions of what incitement is. We have definitions of hate speech, what hate speech is. We have definitions of this and the other. Those cases where NCIC even goes and says, let's do this, let's bond you. Let's sign a public declaration with a politician, with a leader, and say, I unreservedly apologize for the words that I uttered, and I am not going to repeat this. And that public apology serves as a bigger solution or sense of justice that NCIC gets, if it goes through the court process, we don't see any convictions.
How do we get to a point where not the politicians, but Kenyans internalize the need to treat every other Kenyan as an equal citizen? Because part of the problem with some of these utterances has to do with what we call dog whistle communication. If it is spoken to in a native language, everyone who understands the language knows exactly what is being said. If you interpret it literally, it sounds almost harmless, and yet it isn't. Just look at this globe that we live in and ask yourself where crime has been committed based on racial lines, ethnic lines, and there'll be common threads that run through these things. And behind these common threads, there'll be utterances that were understood on the surface to say one thing, and yet what they meant was something very, very different. And I'm saying, take your pick. And then which followed, what followed this was the dehumanizing of individuals by giving them names like cockroach. You hear Madoadoa. And there are many other names that people come, where within the communities, they know exactly what it means. So when someone says it, and that's why it's called dog whistle, those who understand what is being said, understand it. You who doesn't understand and perhaps not a native speaker of that particular language, you may be in that crowd and you have no clue what on earth is going on.
Just think it's a sound.
Yes, communities have that. And usually when they've been rallied to a common point where, for instance, whatever disparity they may be feeling is being explained on the exploitation. It's being explained, and this is where the politician comes in.
Yeah.
It's being explained as having been caused by some external force. And then they choose that external force and say, it is this community, and because they've done this, and because they've done this, and because that is why you are where you are. It catches traction very simply because it is a simple solution to an otherwise what you may call a complex problem, and yet it is not a complex problem.
But do you think, folks, as we're looking at it now, that the country feels, because of this recent spate of arrests or, summonses, and people are coming in to give their statement about what they meant or they didn't mean or intend, do you feel as though the country now says, right, we've gotten things in order, people are not going to go and stand behind the microphone and say whatever they please, that we now have reins on this thing and we are controlling the speech pattern around politics?
I think we've made tremendous progress. I think so. The fact that Senator Muthui Nturi spoke, and within minutes, this was already on social media and it was being discussed, and there was already a discussion around it. What he has said is insightful, is it not? That fact, there's awareness in the community. That is a big thing. And because of that, because of the kind of backlash that he was receiving, both at the rally and outside the rally, that is what made Senator Muthui Nturi to issue the first apology that he did. It is because of that awareness, because the people were like, what you've said. Forget about court. The court of public opinion is, this is insightful. Moses Kuria today has a tag. Yes, he's been taken to court 2014, 2015, blah, 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 blah. He's been acquitted in all of them. But mention the name Moses Kuria, and people all also have a tag on Moses Kuria.
What he's associated
with saying, yeah.
Based on what he has said before. This awareness is big, and I think it's a big move that we've made. The unfortunate bit is that this whole issue of the law and whether it's watertight for us to actually see somebody being punished over how we all consider punishment, which is lock somebody in jail. Whether we can get there, we've not gotten there, but I think the public is aware of what can be considered insightful.
Talk about intent and look at chapter 6 and what it was intended for, and what our parliamentarian has turned it into. You might as well, you can have it as a framework of sorts, but whatever strength it had was watered down. Whatever demands that it put, the probity it put on would-be leaders and people who are in leadership, especially political leadership, that thing was rendered vague. So why are we having all these discussions? It's because there's lack of clarity as to what ought to be done. We took on one Mr. Makori the other day here. Those people have a difficult task. What the law allows them to do and what they're able to do is limited. The DPP, the same. Ask yourself, when we had issues in The Hague, there was a gentleman by the name of Sang who was actually a presenter in a radio station. Why was he arraigned?
Because of the content of the show that you were hosting.
Yes, exactly. If you look at what happened in Rwanda, the propagation of that term cockroach and what ought to be done to cockroaches was through, again, media, radio.
It was. Indeed.
And they also had people who had been in the media who were arraigned in the Court of Justice, International Court of Justice, for those very same things.
But it wasn't a mistake.
No!
It was choreographed.
This is really the point I am trying to make.
Because they used the two greatest things that you've mentioned. They used media, the most powerful things for propaganda is that they used media, and then they also used language.
If you look at what the Nazi used, the brown shirts, their slogan was blood and honor. It is a term that has been used by other racist groups, extremists, especially extremist white racist groups right across the globe. The Ku Klux Klan, that was their dog whistle for distinguishing people who were not like them. And it couldn't get more negative than that. Unfortunately, we see it in Southeast Asia. We see it in China. It's the same thing. And the condemnation of it cannot be watered down or petered down. It has to be in the strongest terms. Do you recall a time when every other day, your day of one, Junaid Mohammed uttering unuterables, Moses Kuria, the government decided, this nonsense is coming to an end.
It has to stop.
People were arrested, the Kamata Friday.
Yep.
Went in. There are people who've never uttered a single word you can even describe as adverse since. God alone knows what they were told when they got in there. Is the government in a position to do something about it? Yes, they are. But more importantly, and I think Eric got it right, the court of public opinion has a strong say on the matter, and they're very clear. And they have expressed it over and over. Now, intolerance to such utterances is what will force the politician to change.
Unfortunately, though, CT, the court of public opinion is sharply divided based on political leanings. Look at what now we're talking about. Talk about Senator Mithika Linturi, Senator Aaron Cheriot and all. Look at the kind of comments that you receive. Based on where you are, politically, you'll say, what do you people are talking about? I mean, who doesn't know? Enda nyumbani means go home. Then somebody else will know, whoa, enda nyumbani is basically saying go back to where you came from, which is evict people from where
and
they
then
live
I'll tell
now.
you that me, I meant just let's go home now. It's back.
You know, Eric, if we didn't have a history of what we like to call a tribal clashes, okay, and the outcome, and we didn't have a history of understanding the process that led to them, one could get away with that argument. It doesn't get shallower than that. We know exactly what is being said.
Yep.
So if somebody wants to use an argument, think of an argument.
Think of a different argument.
Which makes more sense, yes.
It's 28 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a quick break. We'll take your calls after this, 0719-012-600, as we continue this conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
My number one Nairobi life hack, InDriver. It's an app I use to save on rides. With InDriver, I get to negotiate what I'm willing to pay for every trip I take. I love to get the best deal, and that's why I always order my rides with InDriver. I get to choose whether I want a boda ride or a car ride. And I can even choose the car as well. No need to overpay for a better vehicle. Then I pick my own driver based on their ratings. This means I can feel safer on each ride because I know who's on the wheel. Try InDriver for yourself. Ride smarter and spend smarter. Download the InDriver app on the App Store or on Google Play. The InDriver online passenger transportation aggregator is not a taxi service. Find more information at www.indriver.com.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more.
The sun's out in Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 15 today. Sunny conditions at 12 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 11. It's sunny at 10 in Nyeri, highs of 26 and lows of 9. While in Eldoret, sunny conditions at 12, we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 11. Mombasa, sunny as well at 26, highs of 33 today. While in Malindi, we'll see mostly sunny conditions at 25, going to highs of 31. Kisumu, sunny at 21, highs of 33 and lows of 18. And guess what? It will be sunny in Kakamega. It's currently 18 degrees. It'll go to highs of 33. Sunny at 20 in Kampala, highs of 30 and lows of 17. And it's raining in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Mostly cloudy conditions at 16 in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 16. And it's partly cloudy at 27 in Lagos. We'll see highs of 30. Mostly clear for now in Kinshasa at 23. It'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 22.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, so a traffic situation building up in quite many parts of the city this morning. Well, let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, where there's quite a lot of traffic spilling over from Outer Ring this morning. It's hot and heavy on Kiambu Road, well past the DCI headquarters, and that doesn't look any fun at all. It's snaking along very slowly as you get then towards Muthui at the square. Limuru Road also following suit, that whole Muthui area, and then coming out to Limuru Road, in and outbound traffic, there is a thing. This entire network of Westlands today not looking pretty, but guess what? You can use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of the mess that is coming out of Westlands off Waiyaki Way, then well into Chiromo, coming off of the CBD. Uhuru Highway is feeding well into the CBD and then going all the way through to Westlands. Jogo Road, looking at the eastern part of the city, also piling up quite some. Ngong Road, in and outbound traffic. Don't understand about the outbound traffic, but let's take a look at that in a short while. Langata Road also quite packed. And is Mombasa Road doing a thing with the weighbridge? Yes, it is. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Thursday.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
22 to 8. The conversation continues, and we want you to join the conversation now. 0719-012-600. Is enough being done to curb hate speech and inciting remarks, not just in the politics, but in our society, in our communities? Is enough being done to curb this? There are several parts of the law that, deal with these matters. Article 32(2) of the Constitution. The right to freedom of expression does not extend to propaganda for war, incitement to violence, hate speech, or advocacy of hatred. Section 13 of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Act. A person who propagates hate speech or incites ethnic hatred shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years. Section 96 of the Penal Code, which was declared unconstitutional by the court. A person who, without lawful excuse, utters, prints, or publishes words implying or calculated to bring death or physical injury to any person or community, or to lead to the damage of property, is liable to imprisonment of a term not exceeding 5 years. So, several bits of the law here and there, but the actual definition of hate speech or this propaganda to war, and then the threshold for that is where the issues are. Just like Commissioner Dr. Makori was telling us, the threshold. Now they are saying, let's work collectively as a multi-agency. Let's sit together when we're dealing with these matters. Let's sit together as ODPP, as NCIC, as DCI, as judicial officers, as legal officers, and see how can we know the public has basically pegged this as hate speech. We also know individually that this is hate speech. But we cannot go to court and sit in front of a judicial officer and quote anywhere and prove that this was hate speech. How do we work together to get there? That's where I think that quagmire is. When someone speaks, somebody came here just the other day and now they're a billionaire, some of these people should go home. What exactly are you saying?
Right.
Go home where? Go home as, because there's go home, aende nyumbani is also used very many occasions to talk about do not vote this person in.
Right.
Vote out the person is aende nyumbani. Go back where you came from is aende nyumbani.
How do
you actually prove that, what this person was saying was inciting people to go and evict this person and not vote him out? Because telling people don't vote for this person, you have a right to say that.
You do. And then without resultant action is what makes it even more difficult to then be able to say, aha. Now, because this has happened, then we can say that this individual saying this or the other thing meant that was their intent, to get people to go home, and then they gave the order to people who would essentially put their boots on the ground and get this thing to happen. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Void of that, it then makes it very difficult to be able to pin anything on anybody. To say that nothing happened, or before anything could happen, this individual then was pinned down, ask a couple of questions, and then they're able to give this analogy. They're able to give an explanation. Because it doesn't really take a long time for anybody to be on their feet really quickly in terms of thought. To say, you are the one who is saying that. This is what I meant.
This is what I meant.
Now, save Jesus Christ or anybody else who has these kind of powers, how are you going to say that that is not what the individual meant?
Many communities around this country and elsewhere always have a terminology that describes someone whom they don't consider to be their own.
Yeah.
It is not necessarily negative, neither is it meant to be corrosive in any way, but we have them. And a lot of these things are learned behavior. You're socialized. If you grow up in an area where a certain language is spoken, your nursery school is in that place. Your primary school is in that place. Your secondary school is in that place.
Yep.
And if there's a university now, it's also in that same place. My friend, your whole world will revolve around the community norms that where you come from. And every other norm will be considered strange. I think I once told you of how it is. Somebody I knew from an earlier time, because we come from the same neck of the woods. And then we met at university. And there's a comment he made that I have used as a reference point for a very, very long time. He explained to me, the Luos have a word, jamwa. It just means somebody who doesn't speak our language and is outside our community. that gentleman told me, I think it was a month or two into the, he told me this place is a very nice place. But told me, these Jomo are very many here.
Yeah, too many Jomo.
There are very many here. That was his observation. Meaning, in his mind, he would have been more comfortable if people who spoke the same language as him
stayed in the same.
Yes. Now, the same fellow would happily told me the following week. By the way, I found a group of people who come from back home. So we meet every Friday. Are you going to also come and meet with us?
Join us.
Yes. Now, this person was actually a very nice person. But because of his upbringing, his comfort zone had to do with people who speak his language,
right,
and who come from his neck of the woods. Now, this doesn't need to be negative, but
it's only natural.
It's natural.
Yes. Now, where politicians come in is when they muddy these waters.
But isn't that what often happens? Is that because something is so natural, it then is the most natural thing to corrupt, and use and exploit for your own benefit.
That is what they do.
That's exactly what they do. Because, ethnicity in itself, there's absolutely nothing.
It's actually a
wrong
wonderful
with
thing.
It is a wonderful thing. The preservation of culture, so many things, the
Yes,
keeping
the diversity
of tradition, and so many things. It is a wonderful thing. And you would actually encourage kind of that kind of thing to happen, so that you're in this melting pot. You can do it. But that's what you don't find people going to take a bad thing to use it for their good. No. People are going to look at the thing that's working and ask themselves, all right, where is the loophole here? Or where is the spot where I can now take this thing and use it to my advantage? And that is how wars have been fought. Because of that one thing that would essentially be all right. It now is taken and it is bastardized almost because people want to use it to their own advantage.
You see, a difference, a fundamental quality that all humans have, being different from each other, being different from your own siblings. Now, that is what, as you say correctly, is bastardized. It's twisted so that it gets the most extreme negative connotations it can possibly have.
Indeed.
And yet, you know what? It's just a difference.
It's just different.
It's not good or bad.
It's just
is
different.
just a difference.
It's just different.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And here we are as a country. We are dealing with hate speech and all. If you look at like we were saying this morning, the threshold. So a couple of years ago, electronic evidence was allowed to be admissible in court. But then still the courts are cautious because you can go and manipulate a video clip.
Yes, you can.
And bring it out here to show that CT was actually insulting Eric when they were having a very cordial conversation. How do you prove that? The prosecution has to prove the authenticity of the clip.
The responsibility then becomes
big issues. If you look at all these cases that have gone before court, and in fact, even these ones that the DCI is instructing the IG of police to commence investigations. He says, I have seen clip circulating on social media, and I want you to go and investigate. He's not basically saying, here is a clip, go take it to court. No. He's saying, I want you to go and investigate. Lamu, clip on social media. Eldoret, 2 clips on social media. Kisii, clip on social media. How then do you prove? You must have somebody who comes and corroborates that actually I was in the meeting and this is what the person said.
And that is
who's going to come out and say, yes, I was there and this is what the person said.
But you see, Eric, it gets to the heart of the matter. Do we have a call coming in?
Yeah, John will deliver it.
You see, there's on the day that Senator Linturi uttered what he did, in my mind, the condemnation should have been immediate.
Public condemnation.
Immediate. Even the people who are the next speaker should have said, excuse me, that we cannot allow.
Come and clarify or withdraw and apologize. Just
right
like
now.
It happens like that in Parliament.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the words that have been uttered here are unparliamentary. The honourable member ought to withdraw and apologize.
Yes. Now, there was no murmur. Booing that is usually characteristic of disapproval was not there. I'm sure some people clapped, some people laughed, meaning what was being said resonated.
They're okay with it.
And it's a charged crowd and they are like,
yes.
Now, an opportunity to put state on this thing so that you can understand that this is not going to be acceptable was missed. Apologizing the following day. And then, this is the thing that I finally gets my goat. Huh? It's like you're being forced to accept an apology. But so-and-so has apologized.
So what's the problem? In fact, not just apologize, has retracted. They don't just say apologize, City. They say they have retracted. So there's actually really no reason for you to have your knickers in a twist here.
Yes.
They have retracted. So now what we are having is space.
No.
But that's what you're being told. It's being forced down your throat. It's
Now
been retracted, so it doesn't exist. So what's the
Please,
problem?
let's listen to the caller.
Let's hear you. 0719-012-600. Janet Courier, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Janet. You've been awake since what, 4 a.m.?
I really had to contribute to this before I go to work because you were touching on mental health.
Yes.
Huh? However, I need you to go for Swahili classes because Mpanda Ovyo Hula Avocado
Is Ovyo real Swahili?
Yes, it is. So now, your last comment about the apologies, you apologizing for votes. So for me, it's being manipulative as leaders because that is what you are used to and that is what we have accepted you to be feeding us as citizens. All right?
Yes.
When it comes to, I will touch on the mental health aspect and the clashes that happen in these areas. Then we have to wait for the leaders to suddenly just wake up. Actually they have a nightmare that there's going to be a clash because there have never been any clash. So they're like, oh, there's a clash. This is what we'll do. And then after a few years, there's a clash. This is what we're gonna do. So I think people really need to understand the impact of the violence on human beings. It has nothing even to do with physical or even moving from point A to B. But can we look at the emotional impact and the financial impact of these people? Yeah? And the promises that you're making on TV, you've already moved these people from an area where they would have watched you to maybe tents. So they can't even hear. They don't know what you're saying. So they've given up. And then you show up to ask for votes. Not political. And then there's the aspect of even this mental health thing. I feel as long as the leaders feel they're not gaining anything, and I highlight gaining anything from it, they will not actually put work to it. Because I don't think people really understand when someone commits suicide, what it does to a family, what it does to us medics. They can afford the mental hospitals. There are so many people who can't afford. So if there's something to be done when it comes to the police, when it comes to our youth, everyone, then I think they should do it, but not waiting for calamity like corona to happen.
Yeah.
And that's when they start saying, there's depression, which has been there forever.
True. Thank you, Janet.
And also we need to understand, even when kids go to school after these issues, what is it we have exposed them to? So when they burn a school, can we not just look at the fire? Can we look at what they're burning inside them, and then we try help?
Then we deal with it. Asante, Janet.
Yeah.
Have a good day at work.
You too, thanks. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.
So, conversation, the sham that's become hate speech investigations. The nation has a strip here of the number of cases that have had inciter MPs walking away scot-free. 2015, Machakos Senator Johnson Muthama was charged with making inflammatory utterances at Uhuru Park, Nairobi. He was acquitted in 2020 when the High Court declared an unconstitutional a provision of the Penal Code on incitement to violence and disobedience of the law. And this is that Section 96 of the Penal Code. 2015, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria arrested after a video emerged that suggested encouraging youth to attack with machetes politicians who questioned how NYS cash was spent. He was freed in 2016. Governors Jackson Mandago, Alex Tolgos, as well as MP Oscar Sudi, Sila Teren, James Bett, and Wasingishu County Assembly Speaker Isaac Terer, summoned by the NCIC after labeling Moi University Vice Chancellor Labanairo an outsider. No action was taken against them. 6 MPs arrested in June 2016 over hate speech and incitement. Junaid Mohammed, Moses Kuria, Aisha Jumwa, Ferdinand Waitito, Florence Mutua, and Timothy Bosire. All acquitted the following year. Among the reasons for their acquittal was English and Kiswahili translation of the said inflammatory statements were incorrect. June 2016, Bahati MP Kimani Ngunjiri summoned by NCIC of allegations of hate speech. Nothing happened thereafter. So are we making any progress? Is enough being done to fight and curb hate speech in the country? 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram as well.
Why, can we take a few steps back? Why is this thing a big deal?
Why is what a big deal?
This whole hate speech, you're talking about it. What happened that then precipitates serious discourse and even action when somebody then would go against it? Why?
Our history, our recent history, for instance.
In
92,
then going to 2000. Okay.
2007.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it was an ugly situation, right?
Yep.
Something that you would never wish to revisit. There was loss of life. There was loss of livelihoods. There was polarization, almost tinkering on balkanization. Yes, no?
Yep.
It was not a pretty situation at all. And all of this comes as a result of somebody uttering, some words that would ignite something in somebody else. Maybe fueling action. This is what we saw in other parts of the world, right? So that was the premise upon which these things began. So it may look as if you're having this conversation now and then somebody will stop and say, what are we even talking about? But we are talking about avoiding a situation that brings about death. Avoiding a situation that brings about loss of life, carnage, pilfering, polarization, balkanization, that you even start having severe conversations about cessation, right? That is what you are trying to avoid. And all it takes is a word from one person. And this is the danger. We're not even talking about present. We're talking about the danger or the potential that this thing has. So in as much as it is difficult to pinpoint, we must see the danger. There are some countries that you will go to today. There are certain words that you cannot even speak. You can be arrested for speaking a word. It doesn't matter what you meant, didn't mean, who said, who didn't say. You speak the word, you can be inside. Must we get to that point where it becomes so clear, so straitjacket that you can't even say certain things because the history has shown that that plants a seed in people's minds? CTU talks about the fact that people didn't boo it. Why?
No.
Why? You also have to face the fact that the reality of the matter is that there's some people who think like that. Why did President Donald Trump become president? Because he spoke something that was already resident in the minds of people. He spoke their reality.
And spoke of it often.
He spoke their reality. We can't run away from the fact that some of these things that we're talking hate speech today is the speaking of the reality in the minds of some people. And what you want to do is to shut it down.
I bring it back to the public. Okay? Some of these things, the loose translations and interpretations of hate speech, they will not fly in court. We'll have arguments and counter-arguments. It has got to be the court of public opinion. The same way I say that Chapter 6 of the Constitution will not be a checkbox exercise.
It will not be the law that will make it happen.
It has to be the people. If you don't think that this person has integrity and deserves a position in leadership, they come to you. You are the ultimate.
Don't give it to them.
Don't give it to them. If somebody utters words that you feel as a society that these are wrong words, then that they get into that box of people who are not fit to hold public office, and you can execute that. Same way we saw that huge backlash on Senator Mithika Linturi that even led to his arrest and even led to the deputy president saying, okay, that if we sustained that, We don't even need to take people to court. We will deal with hate speech. I think we have the potential to deal with hate speech because people will be knowing. Politicians know. I incite, yes, my people can just get charged, but then everybody else will turn and say, no, you are inciting. And it's not like we lack experience in this. We have seen tribal clashes. There are victims everywhere.
There are people today living with those scars.
Yes.
There are people who have never gone back to the places that were originally theirs, not from 2007 and 8, from 1992, some from 1997.
Yep.
Because every time you had these clashes, people moved away. You think when you came back, you found the land sitting waiting for you. No, somebody had occupied it.
Things change.
Incitement was when people started talking about these things so that they can get consensus.
Exactly.
Where we are at right now, you're not really inciting. You're talking to people about things they've already internalized and things which they resonate with.
Absolutely.
And that's why
you're just pressing a switch.
Precisely. How do you get so many leaders talking about a vice chancellor and all agreeing in the open? How?
Conversations continue into the next hour. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta is today expected to meet the lawmakers who support the Azimio la Umoja initiative at State House, Nairobi. In a message sent by the majority leader in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, the MPs are expected to meet this morning to 1 p.m. Today's meeting will be the first step for President Uhuru Kenyatta to engage with the coalition, which was officially announced by ODM leader Raila Odinga and later manifested in the debate, the political party's amendment bill that is currently before the Senate. President Kenyatta is also expected to give directions to Jubilee members who feel that the party has not made any efforts to regain its popularity before the August elections, with some, including Murang'a Women Representative Sabina Chege, threatening to leave. Today's meeting also comes just days before ODM leader Raila Odinga officially launches his campaign in Thika Town, Kiambu County. To date, more than 10 parties have announced their intention to join Azimio la Umoja. More on this story in our subsequent bulletins throughout the day. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has released the names and pictures of 8 wanted terror suspects believed to be armed and dangerous. In a statement, the DCI appealed to members of the public to volunteer information that may lead to the arrest of the suspects who have been linked to the Al-Shabaab terror network. The DCI believe the suspects, who are highly trained, armed and dangerous, have been dispatched to the country to commit acts of terror. The DCI boss, George Kinoti, is asking you to provide any information that may lead to the arrest of the terror suspects. Makueni County Commissioner Mohamed Maalim will replace George Natembeya in the Rift Valley region. The announcement follows the changes announced by Interior PS Karanja Kibisho. Maalim assumes his duties immediately after Natembeya resigned to officially start his campaigns for the governorship seat in Trans Nzoia County. Meanwhile, Natembeya has been relocated to Nairobi at the President's office, where he will serve before his term lapses. Now, Chief Justice Martha Koome is calling on advocates to be champions of access to justice for all, especially the vulnerable in the society. While emphasizing the role of advocates in promoting access to justice, Koome said lawyers should at all times harness the law to ensure justice to all. According to Koome, lawyers ought to practice law for the betterment of communities and the nation. She reminded lawyers that the profession is meant not to enrich them, but to promote justice and equal opportunity to all. A number of leaders from the Moses Wetangula-led Ford Kenya party have absconded from the party and joined the freshly launched Democratic Action Party of Kenya. Kisumu West MP Olago Aluoch and Luande Oneko, who was previously in charge of internal affairs at Ford Kenya, are said to have led the exodus to the Handui MP Wafula Wamunyenye-led party, which launched its headquarters Chui House in Nairobi. The party similarly added Trans Nzoia Senator Michael Mbito, who was affiliated to President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee, to its ranks. The ongoing drought in arable parts of West Pokot County, well known for production of food crops, has started sending residents into panic mode. There is an acute shortage of green vegetables, with the price of the commodity soaring exponentially. According to residents, they have started running short of common vegetables such as sukuma wiki, black nightshade or managu and cabbages. They say failure of the November short rains in the area caused many farmers not to plant vegetables owing to the drought. And Kenya's position as a rich culture and heritage destination has received a boost following the awarding of Olegesaile Village as Best Tourism Village by the World Tourism Organization. Kenya's cultural diversity and rich heritage has been a key tourist attraction and has been a main venue for the destination to connect with the world through experiences, offering and learning. With the variety of ethnicities across the different regions in the country and many UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Kenya is positioned as a key cultural and heritage tourism destination in Africa. Some of the key cultures attraction in the destination are the Maa culture, coastal region cultures and heritage sites such as the Lake Turkana Park, Lamu Old Town and Fort Jesus, among others. And Athletics Kenya President Jackson Tuwei is optimistic Kenya will be awarded rights to host a leg of the prestigious Diamond League Series. Moroccan capital Rabat is the only African city that stages a Diamond League meeting after it was awarded the rights in 2016. With Kenya set to host the third and final edition of the Continental Tour Gold Meeting Cape Kenya Classic this year, Tuwei said they are in the process of bidding to host the elite global athletics circuit from next year. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, still continues in many parts of the city today. We're looking at Ngong Road, piling up towards the roundabout. CBD is where you get most of your traffic today, in and outbound. Coming off Thika Super Highway, things are still hot and heavy there, as is Limuru Road, coming out of Parklands as well. Kiambu Road, quite packed, and we're looking at Mombasa Road also, seeping slowly into the city. Some traffic on Outer Ring, but that as a bypass doesn't look too bad. Kangunda Road also, as you're getting towards Outer Ring and then coming off of Komarok as well. Okay, that's what it looks like. Nothing too crazy. Your normal morning traffic, but it could get stickier as we go along. But we'll be here to check it out. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
8 after
is
8
the Situation
on the
Room.
13th of January 2022. Good morning. This is the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM, online, and for the next 1 hour, also on KTN Home. Rafik says is from Nakuru with love. What is that? Delecinthia Nanus. Good morning, Africa, Namibia, Windhoek, tuned in. From Kumasi, Ghana is Adam Zakaria. Lawrence Ido, good morning, watching you live from Ghana as well. Everybody who's watching us from around the world. Scott Bapanda, who is watching and following the show on our live stream, live from Victoria Falls, Zambia. Poikana Morris watching from Uyo, Nigeria, and from around the country, around the world. A very good morning to you. We begin the hour with the day's proverb. Siti Muga.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Mm-hmm.
Hii ovyo ni tamu. Is it a fruit or a vegetable?
It's a superfood. The beauty of Proverbs lies in precisely this. Being able to ponder and ask yourself the simple question of what was meant, and then going beyond what was meant to what was intended, and then moving on to what application you can actually put it to. It's such things that makes Proverbs interesting.
So what's the English translation of this?
The translation that I
start with the literal translation and then the equivalents.
Well, the literal translation that if you plant uselessness, you will eat uselessness. That is a direct, almost literal translation.
Implied meaning?
Garbage in, garbage out.
Gigo.
So, I mean, there are very few things that are symptomatic of life and also true to life than this simple proverb. And it's something that we talk about knowledgeably, but it's arguably something we don't really internalize. Because if we internalize it, then we would understand the concept and the reality of consequences. And that would act as a deterrent, just that knowledge. But when we look at our country, we've just been talking about political utterances. People consider consequences when it's on them. When there's arrived at their doorstep and they're having a discussion with the consequences, like an arrest. You know, that's a direct conversation. But prior to that, there's a feeling of invincibility where they do not seem that they can be hampered by anything they say, and that they're at liberty to do exactly. So it's something we talk about and people talk knowledgeably about understanding it, but understanding involves internalizing, and it involves it being seen expressed in one's day-to-day behavior. Remember those early days of hate utterances when one Friday people got jailed? I said, there are people who have never been associated with anything untoward since. That person internalized it. If you want to think it, you think it.
That's really your issue.
Yes, but they are not. You will not catch them uttering anything close to whatever it is that took them. And all they did was spend a weekend in jail and went to court. It was an adequate deterrence.
All right. So yesterday, the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya had a media event in which he announced that he has tendered his resignation. He's proceeding on leave because he intends to join politics. He said, starting today, I am no longer the regional commissioner of Rift Valley, becoming the first high-ranking government official to step down to seek political office. I am proceeding on leave. Then I'll be going to Trans Nzoia to vie for the gubernatorial seat. Those who wanted me to get off this uniform, I've done it, and I am coming. Before this, just a couple of days earlier, we had seen the devolution CS Charles Kater declaring his intention to go back into politics. Remember, this is a man who was plucked from the Senate, where he had been sent by the people of Kericho to represent them in the Senate, and then the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta went and picked him to become the energy CS. Now he's in devolution. Now he says, come February, I'm among those who will be resigning. The headline today in the Standard, Eye on Uhuru as Natembeya begins exits. Although the official quit date for state officers joining politics is about 3 weeks away, more big names are expected to follow in the footsteps of Natembeya, who resigned. And then the nation is looking at, the Standard is looking at those others who have expressed interest in various ways. Chief Administrative Secretary Patrick Ntutu, another CAS, Lawrence Karanja, PS Hamadi Boga of Agriculture wants to move into Kwale and join politics. CS Simon Chulugui, who has vied and contested the Baringo senatorial seat before. CS Ukuriatani, who is a former governor of Marsabit. PS Fred Segor, CAS Ababuna Mwamba, who has served in parliament. CAS John Mosonik, and others. So come February, basically what we are seeing is there are very many people who are in cabinet, principal secretaries, chief administrative secretaries, who will be saying, I want to join politics, and because the law dictates it, I must resign so I can go and focus on this. There are many others who are working in government positions in the public service, like Natembea, others maybe in that whole administration, others in other departments who will be tendering their resignation. What does that do to the government?
It leaves a vacuum.
Does it?
Unless you want to say that there's not really much that they're doing at this time. So even if they were not there, then you wouldn't feel he wouldn't feel the dent, if that's what you want to say. But then, look, whether it is perceived or real, that there would be a gap that was left if these individuals were not there. And then the question is, will the work continue? Many people would ask, well, it's not actually them who get these things done. There's this whole colony of worker bees that are actually having this job done.
Is actually the one who signs.
Right?
Is the chief accounting officer.
So the question that you would then ask yourself, if this person is going to resign from duty to then go and, pursue active politics, going to campaign season, whatever it may be, what happens to their duties? Will you have somebody who will act in that position for the next 6 months until their new appointment's made? Will you say for now somebody else will, hop onto that position and just carry the duties on their shoulders? What will you do?
Do these people ever go on leave?
They go on leave, yes.
And then what happens when they go on leave?
But you see, you go on leave with the expectation that they are to return.
Yes, but I'm talking about the function. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So somebody else would pick up
Precisely.
the slack and
So
continue.
if you resign, what's the difference?
So now, if you are responsible, for example, signing documents, like you've said, the PS, and they have a PS, then who will go? Will somebody sign on your behalf?
Yes.
They be given the opportunity?
Yes.
So where's the crisis?
There's a continuity mechanism in government.
It's clear.
So where's the crisis?
The vacuum in government doesn't exist.
So where's the crisis?
You step out like this. There's somebody who steps in almost immediately, and work continues.
So where's the crisis? Where's the dilemma?
I don't consider it to be a dilemma, except when you ask people to go on leave, and what you're essentially saying is that it is okay. Take time off to politic, and then, should you not succeed, just come back to your job. Therein lies the problem.
Before we get there, I see a dilemma in one area, in the cabinet. If 70% of the cabinet resigns, you see, cabinet, you cannot be an acting minister. The only person who can be an acting minister is another minister.
And where are you going to get this other one if
so
you have...
this minister, so you can say 70% has resigned, 30% remain. The 30% will act in all these other dockets. It will be assigned, but the president will say, so you are Interior CS, you'll also act as Water CS, you'll also act as Agriculture CS, you'll also act as this and the other, all right? However, decisions of cabinet and quorum of cabinet, is it set? How many members of a cabinet must sit to make a decision? If we got to a serious situation where, let's say, we had an external invasion and we needed to react, we needed to declare a state of emergency, cabinet must meet the decision. It must then go to parliament. Parliament will not just take a word from, the president is telling us.
Eric, we already have in some counties that state of emergency, and this cabinet is intact. And it's intact. It's there. I mean, there's nothing that even approaches even the whisper of a crisis. And there's a back and forth and visits there and visit there, and then people come back to Nairobi, and the violence continues. People get displaced. There's discussions. High-power delegations visit the area. They come back to Nairobi, and the nonsense continues. Why am I being facetious about this? It's for a very simple reason. If people have 3 weeks in which to resign, okay, right now, the question I would ask is, how long does it take to appoint a minister and to ensure that they are they have occupied that position legally and that they can continue functioning in that position. How long does it take?
In cabinet?
Yeah. To appoint a minister.
My friend, there's a whole route.
Yes.
President nominates.
Yes.
President forwards name to Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker receives.
Yes.
Speaker tells Parliament now, relevant committee must vet.
Yes.
Vetting takes place.
Yes.
Committee comes and presents its report.
Yes.
Whole House sits.
Yes.
Whole House votes.
Yes.
Says yes.
Yes.
Then it goes back to the President.
How long
for
does
appointment.
it take?
A couple of weeks.
Precisely.
In a very least.
Even give it a month if you want.
So you're saying that then we are getting to a point where the president is forced to appoint 10 new cabinet secretaries to serve for 5 months.
Actually, not 10. Actually, not 10. The
Even one.
No, just to meet the threshold that is required for cabinet to function. That's it. If the quorum is 6 and 10 resign, you just appoint the number that is required to make the quorum, and then life goes on. I'm saying this because there may be other alternatives that I'm not privy to, I don't fully understand.
Yeah.
But what I do understand is this. That vacuum we're speaking of will not exist. Remember, the president and the people whom he's doing business with have a majority in our parliament. Man, things can move at lightning speed if they are intended to move at lightning speed.
Within a week.
Do minister for forestry. Okay?
Well, thank you.
No. Yes.
And acting defense.
Yes. Eric, Minister for Gender Affairs. Okay?
And acting sports.
And ICT. So all I'm saying is, that vacuum, even if you want to talk about it, there'll be a lapse. But people who can act in that position, because we all know, yes, we have CSs, but the people who run the ministries are PSs.
Uh-huh.
And PSs have assistants. Vacuum. Nada.
So there's no crisis in government.
No, there will be no crisis whatsoever.
For example, already yesterday, Natembeya, by the time Natembeya, of course, was calling the press, you of course know that his bosses were aware of what he was doing. He had already gotten the approval. Yeah, we're okay.
He's gone through the process.
He's gone through the process. Already, the principal secretary in the Office of Interior, in the Ministry of Interior and Regional Coordination, has announced the redeployments. We have a new Rift Valley Regional Commissioner. So, who goes to Rift Valley is the former county commissioner of Makueni, Mohammed Ahmed Maalim, who has now been promoted and becomes a regional commissioner and goes to Rift Valley. George Natembeya proceeds on leave, like he said. Proceeds on leave. He's been told, come to headquarters, serve your leave, utakupatia desk pale, utakunywa chai na mandazi, and then you go to Trans Nzoia and start campaigning. So there's continuity in government. There's a regional commissioner as we speak in Rift Valley. Who else wants to resign?
We'll get you.
Who else?
We'll be fine.
Who else? That's taken place already. Who else has been moved to headquarters? That's Regional Commissioner of Rift Valley, George Natembeya. Nicodemus Ndalama, who's been Northeastern, has also been brought to headquarters. Wilfred Nyagwanga, who was Central Regional Commissioner, has been brought to headquarters, and their positions have been taken. Several county commissioners have been promoted, and several regional commissioners have been moved. Somebody has moved from headquarters and has become the new regional commissioner for Nairobi, and this is William Kang'ethe Thuku. Like that. Is there continuity in government?
Yes.
There is continuity in government.
There always
How?
is.
The issue is, though, and this is based, again, today we are quoting Moses Kuria quite a bit, right? Moses Kuria raised this on social media the other day and said, okay, look, we talk about attracting some very good workers in government. What is it that maybe stops somebody who already is looking at, I'm serving in this position, I'd like to serve as an elected leader for these people, but it's a risk. What if I get in there and because of the political wave, I'm not voted in? What if I go in there and because I don't have enough money, I am outspent by my opponent, I don't get in? I already left a promising job where I was rising in my career. Maybe I was a county commissioner. I could have been the next regional commissioner. I leave. I don't get elected. What happens to me? I am an administrator. I went to Kenya School of Government after university. I became a DO, DC. I'm now here. I'm heading up. Then I've left office and then I don't get voted in. Now, that's a risk I'm not willing to take. So the argument here is, how about we say that these people who are serving in public service and who want to join politics, take leave. Instead of saying resign and quit, take leave. Give you leave for 6 months, go, campaign, do everything. Should you not get elected, you can come back and resume your duties.
You know, Eric, when these laws, regulations were put in place and stipulated, it was with a very clear understanding of who we are as Kenyans. If somebody is in a position of authority and they take leave, they haven't left their job. They haven't. Everybody knows they haven't left. And with a proviso, such as the one you state or the one which has been suggested, that they can come back, they haven't left. All the influence that they had, they still have. All the strings they used to pull, they can still pull. Even when they actually resign, they can still pull strings. Now imagine when they've just taken leave. Imagine. Because there's a knowledge that it doesn't really matter. If this guy gets a job, yes, he'll get the job that he is vying for. He might get elected. If he doesn't get elected, this person will come back. My friend, incendiary. That one.
Where is the risk there, City?
The risk is this, huh?
So say you are a regional commissioner in Eastern and you're going to vie for member of parliament, senator or governor somewhere in your home county, Western.
Yes. You see, regional commissioner is a good example of neutrality, meaning even where you were serving before, it doesn't have to be your backyard where you come from.
Yes.
All right? But you're a powerful force wherever you are. And you don't only have to be regional commissioner. You can have some other post in government, but you'll have power. What I'm saying is simply this. Somebody has power, goes through this very daunting and this very traumatizing process of politics, because it's traumatizing. You acquire new enemies. You realize who your real friends are and who your real enemies are. Your resources are depleted. You are a Kenyan. And then you go back to your job. You are going to go back to that job with a vengeance. One, you will know who needs to know you. Meaning they, of course, know your name. But people took you lightly. And lightly here, people who lied to you that they're going to vote for you, took your money and didn't help vote for you because you did the maths.
Yeah, you counted and you checked.
And you gave regional commissioner. I don't have to be in my backyard. See the other brother, sister, regional commissioners. When we sit in our caucus where we're discussing regional commissioner things, I just ask for a small favor and say, Ndugu, there's this other person. What am I trying to say?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm going to say it clearly. When somebody enters the political sphere in this country, they metamorphosize. They are not the same person who you saw before they got in that position. The experience of vying for political position changes you. Just the experience. People think they know what happens until they vie. Then they realize, goodness gracious me, what on earth did I get myself into? And that change usually is adverse in that, as I said, you expend resources. And out of all those competitors, there's only one winner.
Yeah.
So if many of these people who are vying were in government services, you're saying all of them go back to their jobs.
Yes.
And I'm arguing and I'm saying this. When they go back to their jobs, the first thing they want to do is recoup what they know.
So they are likely to abuse office.
Oh, they are going. No, sorry. Let's get it. They are going to abuse office.
Do you agree with City Muga? Let's take a break and then we'll take your call 0719-012-600. So the current law provides for anybody who is in public and state office, you want to vie in politics in 2022, February, resign. Go and seek elective seat and whatever happens, shauri yako. The other argument and the proposal here is, how about we change the law and say, you can take leave, go and seek elective position. If you don't succeed, you can come back and resume your duty in government. Do you agree? Which of those two works best? One, those who are arguing that, let's allow them to take leave are saying, let's not lose very good workers. Let's not lose very good resource from public service just because they wanted to serve the same public in a different capacity. Let's not lose what we have. 28 minutes past 8. We are live on KTN Home. We are also on SpiceFM and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's sunny in Nairobi today. We're looking at highs of 26 and lows of 16. Sunny conditions at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 11. Sunny in Nyeri at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 9. While in Eldoret, it's sunny at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Mostly sunny conditions in Mombasa, highs of 33 and lows of 25. And the high will be 31 in a sunny Malindi. Kisumu, sunny at 19. We'll see highs of 33. And in Kakamega, you guessed it, it's sunny at 21. Highs of 33 and lows of 16. Sunny conditions out in Kampala as well at 23. Highs of 30 and lows of 17. While in Dar es Salaam, it's sunny at 29 with highs of 32 and lows of 27. Joburg, sunny today at 17. Highs of 25 and lows of 16. And not unlike Lagos to be out of pattern, it's raining at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 25. It's mostly sunny in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 29 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
We are in the middle of traffic hour and things getting quite busy in most parts of the city. Hulu Highway, all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out into Westlands. And a lot of feeder roads coming in, whether it's Haile Selassie or we're looking at Gong Road, Kenyatta Avenue coming in from Valley Road, coming in from State House, Westlands. All of this affecting Hulu Highway, then going out into Chiromo. So that's an absolute mess this morning. The CBD quite packed. We're looking at the Thika Superhighway doing its thing this morning. Kiambu Road, I don't know how many lanes we are at now, but we're counting. Limuru Road also quite packed, and now Parklands, the entire area has joined this madness. This morning, looking at that whole Pangani area, Juja Road started early and is still a thing. So we'll keep an eye on things, shall we? You should be out of traffic hours soon. Jogo Road today not doing so badly as you're getting towards Landis Road free and clear in and outbound. Kamkunji is okay today. But then we're looking at the Makadara train station on Jogo Road, and that's quite a mess this morning, all the way from Hamza out then towards Mbotela. Okay, let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. 0719 012 600. That's our number. 0719 012 600. The law stipulates that by February this year, those who are working in government and want to go and seek elective positions must resign, go and seek elective office, and then what happens after that? Shauri yao. There's a proposal that instead of saying resign and go seek public office, you are working as a public servant. How about you take leave? Go seek elective office. If you succeed, people elect you, fine. If you don't succeed, then you can come back and occupy your position. And the argument here is we have very many good civil servants working in government. And don't just look at CSPS. Let's look at those who are actually in civil service, not who are appointed, but those who are employed in civil service. senior administration secretaries, officers, senior managers, whatever cadre of employee in public service. Some may be wanting to go and seek to be elected as MCA, as governor, as woman rep, as MP, as senator. If they go, they go. And the knowledge and experience that they've had working in public service is lost. Instead of just losing it like that, give them an opportunity, because they are seeking anyway. They are working, serving the public in office, and they're saying, I want to serve the public in a different capacity, just that this one is elective. Allow them to go, seek to serve. And if the people do not want them to serve there, they come back and serve here, where we've been having them serving. We have callers on the line, 0719-012-600. Nelson in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you? And how is Ndu and Mwalimu?
Fine, thank you.
We are well, thank you, sir. And how are you doing?
I'm okay. Now, my contribution is this, yeah? If we open that Pandora box, yeah, then it will be bound for abuse. In that, if I resign, I'm very sure that I have nothing to lose, because I don't get the elected job, I still have my job.
Yes.
And when I come back and sit in the SpiceFM newsroom that I was sitting before, now I think I'll be very hard on Kina Ndu and the rest, because I'll be saying, no, these guys, the way you're looking at me, you are the Kisiranis who made me not get this. So I'll try to recoup. And then after all, there's always a risk. There's always a risk that you have to take in any undertaking. So if the bigger the venture, the bigger the risk. So if you're a government official, and then you still feel that you can serve in that other capacity, I mean, nobody is indispensable. We talk of ili pengo haliwezi kuzibika.
Yeah.
But you know, like now, if you, God forbid, if somebody passes on while in office, we always talk of this pengo. But then, while you are still at the mortuary, before you are laid to rest, somebody is already sitting on your on your chair. There's somebody already acting, and then he may perform even better than you did. In that we keep saying this pengo, but I think all pengos can be filled, because that is the meno tunaweka meno artificial na tunaendelea kusmile.
Thank you, Nelson.
I think it should remain the way it is.
Okay.
Thank you and have a good day.
You too, have a good day. 0719-012-600.
Look, I think there's a decision that you make when you say that, I want to put myself up for elective politics. You make a decision. And I think you should go with that decision. You've said, here I am, and I've been sitting in this capacity, whether I was appointed or not. So, I applied for the job and I filled in the position. But then you make a decision. And I'm hoping that meant that you regarded all the risk and the reward, and you said, okay, I want to try this. I think you then make the decision to go, taking into consideration that you could either win or lose. What you do is that you set a pattern that you can have your cake and eat it as well. So I'm going to go try this, right? In the event that I should win, I'm ready to leave all of that behind. So why not make the decision? It's either you go and serve in this capacity or you remain. If we are looking at the fact that this is a great mind, they have so much to contribute. How about they consider that as well and say, okay, well, because of my great mind and my wonderful contribution, how about I stay in this position and continue serving my country?
We are looking at this thing, typical Kenyan. We are looking at it from, it is you and you're the one who's going to benefit from either that or the other. But let's look at the public. Okay? Does the public stand to lose your experience and everything else? Let's look, for example, at a corporate organization. So you are serving as a CEO, a senior manager in a certain public sector office. And then you are tapped for nomination to join cabinet, to join the county executive office as a CEC. Your office tells you, all right, just go through the nomination. If you pass through the political vetting process, is well and good. You have our blessings. However, if you don't, this seat is still here because we still need you. I mean, you are performing a very good job here. Just come and continue. You are nominated by the governor, by the president. The MPs or the MCAs did not approve. Just come. Let's continue working. The company does not lose that critical resource. Let's look at you as a resource. Does the country lose a very good resource because they wanted to serve us in a different capacity?
No, they don't lose a critical resource. What happens is that the natural law of attrition in these things takes place. Sometimes it may be sooner than one anticipated because you can die on the job, yes, that's attrition. But at some point you're going to leave that job and somebody else is going to take over. And even the job you have, somebody else was in that position. What we do with the positions we have, we do our bit. And then somebody else comes in and adds their bit. It's how it works, actually. Whether it's generational, whether it's within the hierarchy of a business or within government, that's what happens. So when you say you depart, it's not sudden. People know that individuals are going to depart. And those who want to vie for political seats also know. And if they are government employees, they prepare for it. And that's where now crony capitalism comes in. And that discussion which we must have about the Ndego report. Because somebody prepares for it. So how do they prepare for it? In many cases, they take advantage of the position that they're in to pilfer as much as they possibly can and ensure that they have a lot of money. Because campaigning in this country, it requires a great deal of money. At one level, it's in the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. You got a little higher, billions, not millions, billions. And you're told, if you don't have this amount, don't even think of vying. Don't even think. So they prepare. Now, whether you win or lose, you are going to spend that money. When that money is spent, what you will realize is that you're going to have to spend even more than you thought and planned for. It always happens. You end up spending more. And as the day for the ballot nears, there's a frenzy that gets many politicians and they feel, if I spent just a little more, that's when you realize that that extra wife you acquired is a burden. Okay? And you realize that house that they're living in, they shouldn't be living in it. They should be living in it. Well, yes, because there are bigger things afoot. And then the bigger things evaporate, poof, like smoke, gone. And here we are saying that it is okay.
Just come back and work for us.
With the previous job.
Since you would have had your loss, you would have gotten a loss. It's okay. Just come back and pick up where you left off. That person
is going to vie for that job again.
So you say that this person comes back a changed person?
That person comes back completely changed. If the person...
If they were useful in public service, they're no longer going to be useful in public service.
No, they're actually going to be destructive. Because the focus is not just going to be doing what they're supposed to do. The focus is going to be, how do I first of all replenish what I lost? How do I now prepare myself for the next elections? And it's not just a question of having the money. How do I ensure that people who might stand against me, who might be my competitors, how do I cripple them as much as I possibly can?
And then come the next election, here you are already presented with that opportunity that, you know what, I didn't get it this time. I have the opportunity to try again. So I can just as well leave it for another 6 months, go try my luck. And guess what? My jolly old job will be right here waiting for me to pick up where I left off. What are you doing?
0719-012-600. Alphonse in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, Latiff. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Thank you. So, the preamble of this discussion, you guys had got it right in the mark. There would never be this skills gap that would be needed to cover. So if somebody has worked for the public service for 25 years and they want to join politics, they're tired. And they want to join politics, and you're telling us, the public, because you're trying to say that we should not look at it selfishly. This person has been at work, has worked 25 years, has decided their retirement plan is politics, because after they retire in politics, there is an opportunity to make money. Now, you're trying to tell us that after that time, the public will still lose. We cannot, if somebody could not influence public policy for 25 years or could not do their job correctly, and they have been rejected by the people when they went to ask to serve in another position or opportunity, why should they be entertained to come back to serve the same people in an appointive opportunity with zero accountability directly by the same people? So that's just the argument I wanted to put across. The public doesn't lose, the country doesn't lose. There are millions of people who are lining up for these jobs. The Public Service Commission has very good succession planning. So we don't need people who take a risk to go and get into politics to come and be vengeful, as CT says, or to come and loot public resources just because they want to get back at people who rejected them, or at people who campaigned against them, or at people who beat them in politics.
All right, we hear you, Alphonse.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. So, the conversation here is, should we amend the law to say that those who are serving in public service and want to seek elective position can, instead of resigning, just take leave, go, seek elective position? Should you not succeed, just bring back your skills to the position that you held before. Whatever level of cadre of government, of public service you are in, just come back, continue, and, pick up from where you left. Eric in Upper Hill, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Fine, thanks.
I find this a very peculiar notion that the public should underwrite the failures of government functionaries going to run for political office. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
John Natembea must have deputies or people that he can mentor in the public service.
Yes.
If he did a good job, he would have raised John Natembea plus,
George,
who can step in his position, and then he can move on to political position. He should not be holding the regional commissioner job in a shadow acting position, just in case if he fails on the other end. And anyway, if he spends 30 million running for political office, and for example, we pay him 1 million shillings every month, he just needs to come back for another 5 years in public service to recoup the money that he spent. So we underwrote his intention to run for political office and told him, even if you spend the money, just come back to us, we will pay you, and from that, you will recoup your money. I don't like the idea at all.
I don't hear people complaining when the president appoints political rejects as ambassadors, as CASs, as ministers. Same difference.
Doesn't mean that we like it anyway.
I hear you, Eric.
Can I put one more scenario?
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Natembea, George. Sorry. Let's imagine Uhuru Kenyatta was still going to run for president the next term. Maybe he was in the middle of his 10-year term.
Yep.
And Mr. Natembea goes and says, okay, people of Trans Nzoia have said I should run. But the people of Trans Nzoia say you should run on ODM ticket, not on Jubilee. He goes, runs on ODM. Okay?
Yep.
What kind of a situation does he come back to when he has to serve under a president of a party he did not support, and he had to speak ill of them when he went for his election?
Right.
They'll tell him, mkubwa unajua unaelewa ni mambo
Mambo ya
ya
siasa. The ground ilisema. I understand.
Thank you, Eric. 0719-012-600. There's a comment there by who? Martin.
Okay, so Martin says, the view that doing campaigns, one has to have a lot of money is incorrect. Well, it is. We have the young MP who did door-to-door campaign without money and even spent nights in the areas. The people are the ones who choose their leaders. Okay. Sam Roa says, Natembea and other civil servants who have resigned to vie for the gubernatorial seat. If he loses, he will still be appointed a PS here, CAS, ambassador, or any other political position. It's just a merry-go-round, so it really doesn't matter. No need to go for leave. You'll find yourself in the system yet again, is what he's saying.
Tutapatia yeye kazi.
He'll be sorted. He'll find his way in somehow. And this is, one mindset, right? Christina Cheng says, when you're getting into politics, always have a backup plan in case things go south. And I dare say that that's it. That these folks who are saying they're going to leave their position, right, and vie for this political seat, they probably have an idea what will happen if they don't lose, if they don't win, rather. I don't think anybody's going in saying, well, I'm going to win and I'm going to win. There's usually something that they're thinking, all right, so if I don't, maybe I'll do something else.
Actually, surprisingly, many don't.
Don't consider that you could lose
Plan B.
in a competition.
I'm winning.
It's a competition.
In it
Competition,
to win
by
it.
virtue of definition, means that there will be a loser and there will be a winner.
Can I take two callers here? Yes, Edward in Baringo, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to have my input. Actually, if somebody is allowed to come back to the office after they have left, when you are going to vie for an election, you make new friends and new enemies.
Yes.
And therefore, if you are allowed to come back, actually, it's going to change you, to transform you. And therefore, it's going to affect the way you are going to work from that time henceforth. Therefore, this person might not be able to deliver the way they were delivering before. Yes, because they come in totally new people.
They come with a different mindset.
They come with a different mindset. Actually, politics can transform somebody.
Edward, in your county of Baringo,
yes,
there was a gentleman called Simon Chelugui.
Yes.
He wanted to be a senator.
Yes.
Was not elected. He has served as cabinet secretary.
Yes.
Has there been anything that you could say, looking back at the people of Baringo who didn't elect him, at his opponents in Baringo, would you say that there's anything that he has done that has been detrimental to the people of Baringo?
Not in particular, but that does not mean it cannot happen anyway.
True.
Yes.
Thank you, Edward. Have a lovely day.
Okay, you too.
Coming back to Nairobi, Barry, good morning.
Eric, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Ndu and City, how are you doing?
We are well, thank you, sir.
Now, I think my contribution to this will be two-phase. Now, the first one, this law, when it was enacted, what was it trying to cure? Basically, it was trying to cure two things. One is the culture of abuse of public office by government officers, because some of us who are around the country where you could see them blatantly campaigning using government vehicles and all that. So it was felt that in order to provide the neutrality in terms of competition, public servants are now barred from seeking elective office while still in office. So that's the first one. The second one is that the fundamental principle of public service is the principle of neutrality, political neutrality, right? So that cannot be attained when I've chosen myself to be elected for an office, and you know how our politics here goes. It is vitriol, it's abuses, and all that. Then thereafter, supposing now you fail, and then you're now to come back and serve under somebody whom you called names and you branded, it won't work. But now the second bit of my discussion will be of what imports this law. Now, what this law has done is that for people who love fraternity, for the most excellent minds in this republic, they just avoid politics. Now, the public is now denied the chance to be served with the best of what Kenya has to offer.
Exactly.
Because people are not interested in politics. And Eric, if you're keen, you watch around and see the caliber of people who are interested in MPs. Basically, anybody with 1,000 likes on Instagram is big enough to be an MPA. We have socialites and everyone else. So even if you look at the quality of leadership, it has actually declined. So how then do we find a balance such that we don't lose out on the best of the country, but also we still protect the fundamentals which the draft of the constitution wanted to address? I think that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you very much. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Chemiron in Nakuru.
Yes.
That's it? I was about to say Cameron.
Yes,
Chemiron, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to the show. What's your contribution?
My contribution is this way. People have been enjoying being in the government. And I'm now trying to lure the public to tell them we can better live with you. But on their support during their time being on the government has not even contributed to the public or to the people they want to lead them. And they are coming here saying that they want to lead them. On the contrary, that if they lose the seat and the bill bring that you lose your seat to still come to the government, they will have to understand that. If I lose this, I will be going back.
Yep.
If I get, it will be double way.
Yes.
So us as a public, we should be very keen on what we are doing, on who we will have to use, and to give people who are there ready to lead us in the right direction, but not who are just self-centered. They need to gain from our power that you are giving unto them.
Okay.
So thank you, Mr.
Asante sana, Chemiron.
Yeah.
Have a good day. It's coming up to 6 minutes to 9 o'clock. These conversations continue every weekday morning on SpiceFM. And yes, there are very many comments that we're seeing even on social media. And it's an open debate. Look, just like Barry has said, how do we balance between those two? How do we balance between people who are serving in public, saying, I want to go out there, I want to take that risk. But then they actually are contributing something big in public service. Yes, we can say you can always find others. Of course, you can always find others, but you'll not find the same person. You'll not find the same level of commitment, of skill, of engagement that they were bringing. And that's why they had not been fired from their position. In fact, they were rising.
Everything you say, Eric, is acquired over a period of time. And other people can do the same.
Can acquire the same over another period of time.
Now, me as a public, as a member of a public,
you want it now.
Yes, I should not be feeling, now the person who was serving here has left and I have to wait until this other young person gains enough experience.
But the public
to
can
serve
wait
me.
for you as the individual to go and take your stab
just
at
6 months.
politics, and we can wait for that to happen, and then you can try and see. If you don't get it, then you will come back.
Just 6 months. Thank you to the people who've been watching us on KTN Home. This show is live on Spice FM and it continues until 10 a.m. You can switch over to Spice 94.4 Nairobi if you're in Malindi, 97.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, 96.7 in Eldoret, 96.0 in Nakuru, Kisumu 102.5 and Mombasa 87.9. If you're not near a radio, you can also follow us on social media. We are live streaming the show on YouTube, Spice FM, and Facebook as well. Our page is Spice FM KE.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here.
Okay.
A very Swiss
So what's your
temperature.
Ndu?
Well, look, I'm saying that you choose one, man. You stay in public office and continue to do this greater good that you're talking about, or you make a decision to go into elective politics and see if they will select you. Then, thereafter, if they do not. But I'm saying stick to one thing. Let's see what it is that you're doing. Serving the country with the expertise that clearly you were chosen on. Let's have that done. Should you make the decision and say, look, I believe I have something else that I can offer, take everything into consideration and then make the jump.
You are a very valuable member of the Situation Room and the Standard Group. Now, should you choose to go and seek elective position, wouldn't you like it to be that the Standard Group can tell you, it's okay, go. Let's talk in October. All right? Should you wish to come back, your seat will be somewhere here.
By the time you're making the decision that
Feels
you
good,
want to
doesn't
go, of course, it feels very nice. But
Everybody
I think we're going a little bit beyond the feeling and romance of all of it, right? It's nice. What is that thing we were talking about yesterday? Kupendwa na kupenda. It's very nice. However, Here you are saying that you feel that there's something you can offer on a higher, on not even higher level, in a different capacity to be able to do something else. By the time you make the decision to make the move, you take it with everything that it has to offer. The possibility of rejection, the hope of acceptance, everything. Take it into consideration
give it your all.
and move with it. The assumption is that you have given it your all here where you are, and you're saying, all right, I want to see if I can serve in a different capacity. Go for it, my friend. We leg you on. However, while you are away, even as you go, don't think that we will now just say, okay, in fact, it is only you who can fill this spot. So we leave it for you. If you go and you don't succeed, come back.
For that to happen, one would need to be not good.
You have to be better than the best.
You have to be exceptional. And in the private sector, yes, allowances like that can be made because private sector is run slightly differently from the public sector. And everything that you've said, Eric, actually is applicable in the private sector. And you can see, they have looked and they figured this person is actually valuable.
Yes.
You can't come back as CEO.
But you'll come back
But
somewhere.
you can come back as director. And we can even create external affairs so that you can be director there because we know.
Create a special position for you.
Even put you on the board in some capacity. Meaning, we don't lose. Now, even in public service, we see it happening. In that, many people who don't make it for any elective position, well, let's put it this way, people whose constituents have a different idea.
People who lose in an election.
Feel they should be led by somebody else other than yourself. Because it's your people who decide. Yeah? When you get 3 votes, it's the 3 people who think that you can lead them.
They get appointed somewhere.
Yes.
Keep it right here for more conversations. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to meet with lawmakers who support the Azimio la Umoja initiative at State House. In a message sent by the majority leader in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, the MPs are expected to meet from this morning to around 1 p.m. Today's meeting will be the first step for President Uhuru Kenyatta to engage with the coalition, which was officially announced by ODM leader Raila Odinga and later manifested in the debate. The political party's amendment bill that is currently before the Senate. President Kenyatta is also expected to give directions to Jubilee members who feel that the party has not made any efforts to regain its popularity before the August elections. Today's meeting also comes just days before ODM leader Raila Odinga officially launches its campaign in Thika Town. To date, more than 10 parties have announced their intention to join Azimio la Umoja. More on this story in our subsequent bulletins. The Makueni County Commissioner Mohamed Maalim will replace George Natembeya in the Rift Valley region. The announcement follows the changes announced by Interior PS Karanja Kibisho. Maalim assumes his office immediately after Natembeya resigned to officially start his campaigns for the governorship seat in Trans Nzoia County. Meanwhile, Natembeya has been relocated to Nairobi at the president's office where he will serve before his term lapses. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has released the names and pictures of 8 wanted terror suspects believed to be armed and dangerous. In a statement, the DCI appealed to members of the public to volunteer information that may lead to the arrest of the suspects who have been linked to the Al-Shabaab terror network. The DCI believe the suspects, who are highly trained, armed and dangerous, have been dispatched to the country to commit acts of terror. DCI boss George Kinoti is asking you to provide any information that may lead to the arrest of the terror suspects. And police officers have arrested a Nairobi-based scrap metal dealer after dozens of disassembled motor vehicle parts were recovered from his yard along Mombasa Road. A statement from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation said dozens of motor vehicle parts that had been dismantled into pieces from vehicles whose owners could not be immediately established were recovered. The recovered scrap parts were taken to Buruburu Police Station, where the load was offloaded. More investigations are underway as detectives hope to arrest more suspects linked to the case. And Dr. Paula Kahumbu, CEO of Wildlife Direct and a National Geographic Explorer, is one of the new appointees and the first National Geographic Explorer to be appointed to the prestigious National Geographic Society Board of Trustees. Ash Carter, Claudia Madrazo, Deborah Lair, and Dina Powell McCormick are among the others who have been named to the board. The appointments, according to the NAGEO, mark 2 milestones for the 134-year-old organization, with the board now achieving gender parity in terms of diversity, equity and inclusion, as well as improving women's representation in leadership positions. Dr. Kahumbu, the only African on the list, has a long list of achievements and is the first explorer to hold the position. Congratulations to Dr. Paul Kahumbu and all those who have been appointed to the board. And Prince Andrew failed to persuade a U.S. judge to dismiss Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit accusing the Duke of York of sexually abusing her when she was underage and being trafficked by the late financier Jeffrey Epstein. In a decision made public, U.S. District Judge Louis Kaplan in Manhattan said Giuffre is entitled to pursue claims that Andrew battered her and intentionally caused her emotional distress. The judge said it was premature to consider Andrew's efforts to cast doubt on those claims, though the 61-year-old prince could do so at trial. Kaplan said it was also too soon to decide whether Giuffre and Epstein clearly and unambiguously intended to release people like Andrew through a 2009 settlement agreement resolving Giuffre's lawsuit against the late financier. The decision keeps Giuffre's case against Andrew on track for a trial that Kaplan has said could begin late this year. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson apologized after attending a garden party during Britain's coronavirus lockdown in 2020, saying there are things his government did not get right. Johnson is facing a tide of anger from public and politicians over claims he and his staff flouted pandemic restrictions by socializing when it was banned. Some members of his Conservative Party say he should resign if he can't quell the furor. This as we continue to urge you to continue observing the COVID-19 protocols. Remember, go get tested, go get vaccinated so we could all fight this scourge of COVID-19 pandemic together and win the fight. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so what is it looking like a few minutes after 9 o'clock? A little bit of traffic still in the city centre. We're looking at Uhuru Highway all the way from the Nyeri Stadium out towards Westlands. This one has been pushing for some time and it still continues. Coming out of that whole Kilesha area, then going towards Westlands, still a thing. Jogo Road, slowly moving towards the city. Landis Road been doing very, very well this morning. Getting to the roundabouts at Kamkunji, that traffic, but nothing too terrible. Rilo Dinga Way, feeding off of Langata Road, free and clear. It's like a dream. So what you compare happened yesterday on Langata Road to what's going on today, child's play. Very little traffic as then you go past the Wilson Airport and then out towards the Timor roundabout. You're all right. The Southern Bypass also looking pretty good. There's an option of what you can use. Jogo Road, that space between Hamza and the roundabout at City Stadium. Not quite sure what's going on there, but it's really slow. Mombasa Road, while you were away, clogged up all the way to the SGR and then beyond towards General Motors. Use the bypass, guys. It'll save you some skin. SpiceFMKE on Twitter is where you can talk to us. Text us as well on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only...
Good morning. Welcome to the final hour of the show this morning. And CT has the day's harvest.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo.
Plant uselessness, eat uselessness.
Mm.
You know, among the obvious qualities that proverbs are supposed to have, or are, well, said to have, is that they speak of the obvious. They state something that ought to be patently clear. But why proverbs become what they are and why they have the power that they have is because it is that very obvious thing, the thing that we often say we ought to apply common sense to. Those are the things that are often not so obvious, especially when you look at the way we respond to things and the way we do things. Someone takes a certain course of action. There are consequences which we assume ought to be obvious. But experience shows us with clarity that if it was that obvious, then the things that they do, they wouldn't do because the consequences are obvious. So, when you think of this particular proverb, Mpanda ovyo, hula ovyo, it isn't as though the meaning is difficult to understand. No. It is the application. And not just the application, but the consistent application of something which is clearly and patently obvious and something that you ought to know. You'll apply it for a while and then you'll change your mind. It's something that you will do and then you'll carry on your merry way because this doesn't seem to, well, the consequences that were spoken of don't seem to be as they were spoken of.
Yeah.
Little knowing that many consequences don't come in the here and now. They come in the future and they come when you least
expect it.
You know, when you talk about clashes and tribal clashes, there's a story in Okoh tucked somewhere deep in the papers about a boy who confronted George Natembeya in 2019, armed with bows and arrows.
Yes, I remember that story.
The boy was captured on local TV stations and social media demanding justice for his community that he felt was under siege from warriors and he wanted the government to take a firm stand. So what happened is that was in 2019 when there were serious clashes in Transmara. This boy was armed with bows and arrows. He was only 12 at that point and he came before Natembeya and he said, no. He's carrying a bow and arrow, 12-year-old. We need justice and we need peace in this area. Natembeya was like, okay. And this boy, why don't you know, isn't he in school?
Yes.
Let's take him to school. So the Standard caught up with him yesterday at Bishop Colin Davies Boarding Primary School, where he's now a grade 4 pupil. 2019, 2022. How many years are those?
3.
12 plus 3.
15.
He's in grade 4.
Sorry, what?
Yes.
Grade 4, you should be 10 years old.
He's in grade 4 now. 15, you should be in secondary.
You should be.
He's in grade 4 now. Unlike when he confronted Natembeya, Langati is nowadays calm, soft-spoken and shy. I'm happy and comfortable here at school. I thank those who rescued me and brought me here. He says he'd like to be an administrator when he finishes his studies, adding that he preaches peace and at home during the holidays. He revealed that he was bitter with the security agencies since their house was torched during the violence in Transmara and their cattle were driven away by people from another community. I was mad because the security team was telling us to stop fighting, yet we had nowhere to sleep as our hut had been set ablaze. This is a 12-year-old at the point who's looking at house torched, our wealth taken away. We are being told, put down your arms and go back home. And at that age, he could just rationalize and see, what home? We're being let down.
You have nothing.
He is just one case. There are very many other young boys and girls in Transmara during that time who suffered and they live with those cars for the rest of their lives. And we talk about peace, and we talk about the government, just we will sort it out. He has chosen or has been molded to embrace peace and to seek ways of preaching peace. What about the others?
What about those who didn't get an opportunity to go to school, who are of the same conviction as he was at that time, who were saying, you know what, the only way that we can deal with this is for me to then attack, a wounded animal will do that.
These guys are our enemies.
So these are the ones who are stopping us. Right. And I don't have a home anymore because of them. So my only way then is to attack. It couldn't have been that this was the only boy in that area who was of the same conviction. No. So what happens to the others who didn't get this good Samaritan kind of help?
Yeah, who did not get this molding? Let's even say that they went back to school, okay? And they continued in school, but they're being treated just like other students. The whole issue of dealing with the trauma that they went through has not been addressed. They live with that trauma. They know, I slept outside. I did not know what was going to happen to my mother, to my siblings, to my father. My elder brother and my father were out there trying to fight. I was the one who was given the job of protecting maybe my younger siblings.
Yeah, I dare say even this boy hasn't forgotten either.
Of course he hasn't.
Even him who was molded, into this new life and was given an opportunity to go to school, he hasn't forgotten either. He's talking about wanting to be an administrator later on in his life. What do you think that means? Having an opportunity to govern over certain things, having the opportunity to be in the position where you make decisions. Don't you think that his past experiences then are going to be what dictates how he will operate in whatever capacity he finds himself in the future? So what does it do? What does conflict do? What do these clashes that we are seeing happening around the country, Marsabit, Laikipia, Lamu, most recently, what do you think it does to a fledgling population of young people, children, who are supposed to be in school being molded socially in the right way, developmentally? What does it do to them?
Is primary education compulsory in this country?
Yes. Primary and secondary.
And secondary.
Compulsory?
Compulsory.
Is it enforced?
Well,
they try a lot.
They try. I mean, when COVID was coming to an end, what did we see that the Ngaos were doing under the tutelage of government?
Force. Like
go
there's a
back
story
to
here
school,
in
get them
Tanzania,
out. Yeah.
where in Kiminini sublocation, Administrator Martin Teracha went to homes in Mutanga village to flush out children who are not going to school.
Right.
So it's enforced.
Yes.
Even the ones who turned up pregnant, and they said it doesn't matter.
It's enforced in certain parts of the country.
Yeah.
There are parts of the country where people believe they have a warrior culture, where it is almost impossible to enforce because people in positions of leadership are the ones who are behind the formation of these so-called age groups and units that are considered, I don't know what narrative it is that they're given, but the one thing is they certainly don't go to school. And the preferred mode is to have them with as little formal education as possible.
Yep.
All these marauding people who cross over from one place to the other, for them, all these things we're talking about, the criminal element, the things that need to be done, there's a justification for what they're doing, and that's why you see it continuously being proliferated. Our understanding of what's happening and their understanding different
things.
Now, it is not possible for something of this nature to be sustained for this long if people in leadership who ought to see the enforcement of people actually going to formal school, school occupies you. If you're going to school from Monday to Friday, what time are you going to have to go to the forest? You have to do what and what and learning, education changes. That whole process changes you. Again, you will find that in some of these communities where we constantly have the situations that Eric has described here, you will find that the literacy rate that is not what it ought to be among young people. It isn't.
Yep.
Now, you could argue schools are far-flung because the problems that they have, people, of course, yes.
Yeah, their pastoralist community, blah, blah.
Yes, there are all these reasons that can be given. But unfortunately, for every situation where you find such a logic to explain it, you can find a counter logic in a place that is similar where people actually go to school.
Yes. And it takes a lot more. A government has to show it's very, very resolute on this particular matter. it is determined to make sure that its children are going to school. So it'll build the schools.
Yes.
When we hear in these areas in Laikipia West, where an entire area there is no school, in Tiati, where an entire area there is no school. Now we're talking about Transmara. This boy who's 12 years old, there was no school in his neighborhood.
Yes.
Clearly. Because by the time he was going to the school, the teacher says when he came here, he did not know how to read and write. At 12.
Do you remember
he had not gone to school,
making a statement in all the communities that where there people had been having the same issues?
Yes.
And he was saying, guys, you need to take your children to school. Why would a regional commissioner talk about it? Because he knew children were not going to school.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people considered it. In this day and age, in the 21st century, there are people who still think it is okay for children not to go to school. And yet they know full well the benefits of getting children to go to school. When you have large numbers of people who haven't gone to school, there are certain narratives that easy to spread, easy to absorb.
Then what happens? Because we have leadership in these areas from all levels. We have an MCR in the area, we have an MP, we have a senator, a governor. And they know this. For example, when we spoke to the MP for Laikipia West, and she was telling us, this is what's happening. I go to Parliament, I try to speak. How do we move over this? Because, as you say, yes, there are people who benefit from it, and then there are others who genuinely want to see change.
There's a thinking among politicians, and it isn't just the pastoral communities. If you start from the point of view of someone looking and seeing what is advantageous to me, how do I benefit from this situation the most? And you will encourage, you will spur on a situation that favors you politically. The issue of the consequences it has on the people who supposedly support you politically is of no consequence whatsoever. You don't even give it a second thought. Because what you purpose is being achieved through this process. Let's move to counties that are not pastoral. The equivalent of these goon squads. You can't be an old member, or you can't be old and be a member of a goon squad. You need to be young.
Sure.
Okay? Why do you think this proliferation is there? Now that we are in this season, you'll find more and more young people. And they are eager to join. And they're eager to be part of this. Do you think that these goon squads are any different when you look at intent and purpose from these marauding gangs who... No, they're not. They're not. And do you think that if politicians didn't encourage them, if politicians didn't encourage violence, that is supposed to be part and parcel of an electoral process, all the hooliganism that goes along, that takes place, somebody actually pays for it.
Yes.
Somebody pays for it. You know, there was a story that appeared in the media, it wasn't just one paper, sometimes back, of 4 young men from the Nyanda constituency who got killed in Busia. Somebody had passed away. And
they'd been hired as security.
As security, precisely. And you know what happened? Some in the crowd said, these are the people who are responsible for so-and-so's death. As simple as that. They died.
Yes.
You ask yourself, why had they been hired as security? Because there was a lot of hoo-ha about the death of that individual and how they met their death. 4 young men who thought they'd been hired to just do a job died. They didn't even come from the area that they died in. Prior to their hiring, they didn't even know this person who had died. Now, you tell me, that happens because there is such a culture. And there is an additional culture. The culture of people wanting to bay for blood and feeling that they're justified in taking the law in their hands. How different do you think that is from these pastoral areas that we speak of? There is absolutely no difference. But there are people who encourage it. There are people who pay for it. And even right now, as we speak, the groups are growing in numbers, and we are going to see situations of violence yet again. We are. It's already started.
And they're encouraged by the government.
Yep.
Because for as long as people are not arrested, people are not brought to book over these
And the book
incidences.
isn't thrown at them adequately.
Yes. We say, we shall address, the peace shall be restored in this area. It is just restive peace. There'll be no long-lasting peace in Lamu unless the people who are actually financing the killers are brought to book. The people who finance the killers in Laikipia, the people who finance the killers in Kerio Valley, those. But as long as they're not brought to book, you ain't getting any post.
You know what is strange, Eric? They are known by locals. Everybody knows them.
Everybody knows who it is.
And part of the reason why people don't speak is you dare not.
Of course, there's fear. Look, even as you say this, and I'm thinking that when you think of conflicts of this manner, or when you think of these clashes, the immediacy is what you see without realizing the detrimental after effects of these clashes. We're looking at this young boy, which was the premise of all of this. We're looking at this young boy who, for him, so many things happened. A home is destroyed. Possibility of him going to school and learning is taken away. That whole basic unit of society in terms of family and then socialization is removed completely in terms of having a sense of belonging in society. That is removed. All of these are the after effects of clashes. So when you look and say, what is the responsibility of a government to keep its people safe? One, is beyond that, because once people are safe, then you then create an opportunity for other things to thrive. Children can be educated. Units of society then can develop and progress. Business can be done. People can work and earn a livelihood. So a clash is just not a clash that you're trying to remove people, but you are removing so many other things that become working parts of this machine called life. So that's how seriously it ought to be taken. That you may see it as trying to control, because that's what it is at the end of the day. You're trying to control a particular area.
Yeah.
And you're using people to do that. But the destruction that comes as a result of that is untold. And so when it can look as though we sit here and we say, well, something needs to be done. The book needs to be thrown at these individuals. The government needs to sit up and call it for what it is. But that's just really, really what needs to happen. Yep. Because it's not just a clash between two warring communities. It is livelihoods being affected in untold ways.
For life.
For life. For life. And that's what we're looking at here. So you could think that, it's one wily politician here trying to make a little bit extra for him or herself. But how many people are suffering as a result of this?
Whenever you hear that people slept outside, that thing doesn't leave you. There's no way it would. Because you're not just sleeping outside because, today the moon is out. You're sleeping outside in fear. So the slightest sound you hear, you just know this is it. This is how I died.
So you don't actually sleep.
You don't sleep.
No, you don't sleep. You sleep with your eyes open.
And then you're hearing noises in the other areas, maybe in other villages. They've attacked here, they've attacked there. You have no clue. When daybreak comes, you thank God that daybreak has come, but you still know you can still be attacked even during the day.
You see, look at the vicious cycle that this creates. A child like that, this one child was taken to school. How many others were not taken to school?
Many.
Now you tell me, this child is going to grow up. Those others will grow up. What sort of mindset do they have? They are fodder. They are prime property for the sort of narrative that explains to them that other people are responsible for their problems.
Of course.
And they are prime. To being influenced.
And in their own small way, but in their own way, they are justified.
They are justified.
Because they know, I slept outside, our cows were taken and driven away by these people from this community. They came and attacked us. So this person grows up knowing, I and this community, we can't really have a conversation, Bana. How?
What are we talking about?
What are we
because
talking
the
about?
suffering that was meted upon me is because
I
of
buried my mother. No, I didn't even bury my mother. I hear my mother died.
Yeah. And it was because of you.
Yes.
You're describing the origins and the nature of a vendetta. Because now it becomes not just communal, but it's hereditary.
Yep.
But that thing is harmful. That thing is deadly. This issue we see in the Balkans here. When Yugoslavia, after Tito died, I have a friend who went on a mission, peacekeeping mission to Yugoslavia. The story that person told me said, people are talking about a 2,000-year-old conflict as though it happened the day before. You ask them, but Look.
How do you know?
Yeah, you it's been passed. No, we know. So it's like they were waiting for an opportunity to take revenge for something that didn't happen yesterday. It happened God knows how long ago.
It had been simmering.
Yes. That's how neighbors were killing each other. Now, some of these things, when you have a government that doesn't act as it should and clamp down hard, essentially, the government takes full blame for the killing of its people. In fact, I could argue that the government is killing its own people.
Yep.
You know, when you talk about serikali coup, my friend, the might of the government is not something to trifle with.
No.
If they mean to do something, believe me, they will get it done. So the question you ask is, why don't they? When we talk about state capture, we're talking about government capture. You're talking about people or individuals who are within the systems of this currency who can't be questioned. People who can do exactly what they like.
Yeah.
What sort of people are these?
And those people never visit these areas. The people who are left to visit the areas are Kina George Natembea and such other officers.
Yes.
And they're the ones who live with it on a daily basis. So when you hear Natembea speaking so passionately about something, he has lived it, he has seen it. This story, for example, has a photo of the Narok South Deputy County Commissioner, Felix Kisalu, who had gone to visit this boy in school. Knows the story of this boy. This is a DO going to visit the boy in school because he knows that this boy represents, if we nurture this boy well, he represents something, hope. We spoke on Mashujaa Day to a police commander in Kisii.
Yes, we did.
He's a Turkana.
Yes, he is.
And he told us, the reason I champion peace is because of what I went through.
I saw. I lived.
And he knew the consequences.
He knows the consequences. But the people who benefited from this are riding in helicopters in Nairobi. 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Let's take this break, take a look at the weather and traffic. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with
Still looking at
Spice
sunny
FM.
conditions in Nairobi this morning, likely to see then later highs of 26. Lows will come back down to 16. It's sunny at 18 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 11. Nyeri sunny at 17, highs of 26 and lows of 9. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 18 in Eldoret, highs of 26 and lows of 13. It's sunny in Mombasa, highs of 33. We'll see highs of 31 in a sunny Malindi. Kisumu is sunny at 25. It'll go to highs of 33, while we'll also see highs of 33 in Kakamega. Out in Kampala, a haze over the city. It's 30. That will be the high today, coming down to lows of 17. Dar es Salaam, it's quite warm already at 30. Highs of 32. We'll see lows of 27. Rain showers in Lagos continue at 27. Highs of 30. While it's partly sunny in Johannesburg at 20. We'll go to highs of 25 and lows of 16. Mostly cloudy conditions now in Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 29. Going into early evening, Beijing is sunny at 3. Highs of 4 and lows of -9. Still a snowy morning in Paris at 2 degrees, highs of 6 and lows of 0, while 3 degrees is what it is in London, highs of 8 and lows of 3. Coming into very early Thursday, New York is clear at 3, highs of 7 and lows of 2. Okay, so there's still some traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and it's leading us going towards the SGR, but nothing too terrible at the moment. It looks pretty good. Raila Odinga Way, quite heavy as you're getting towards Ngongoro at the roundabout of City Mortuary. Still a lot of mishmash of traffic right in the CBD, coming off Thika Superhighway. That has not let up. If it was possible to have more traffic on Kiambu Road, that's today, because even beyond, I don't know what's before the DCI, all those Joy World, etc. There's a lot of traffic there today. God only knows what's going on. Limuru Road actually is quite packed as well. Waiyaki Way continues in Westlands. So we're out of traffic hour in terms of time, but the action on the roads, now that's a different story. Would you be careful while you're traversing the roads regardless? Please do. Talk to us through the day on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text for 0127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So listen to Spice FM throughout the weekdays and the weekend. On Saturday, 00 Direct comes on from 10 a.m. every Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. So this Saturday, she wants to focus on something. How helping you achieve your 2022 dream body. So first of all, you're already in 2022. You need to dream of having a certain body. And then 00 will help you achieve it. She'll have 3 guests. 1 is a certified nutritionist who will help you clean up your diet and keep you away from harmful fat diets. Mm-hmm. 2, a fitness professional will help you understand your body type so that you can achieve your desired shape, whether it's to bulk up or to tone down. And then she'll also be hosting a yoga instructor who will help you achieve the flexibility, breath, and mental balance that you've been dreaming about. This all is happening this Saturday. Remember, 00 Direct is a show hosted by a woman, play music by women, and she hosts women guests. So all these 3 will be women. Something to look out for, right? Page 15 of the Standard today.
Okay.
So there's a man who's been in jail. Let me tell you how he went to jail.
Okay.
In July 2018, Justice Stella Mutuku jailed a gentleman called Erastus Odhiambo because of murdering Linda Wanjiku Irongo, who was then a 27-year-old lawyer who was alleged to be his wife. This crime was committed in Buruburu Phase 5, Nairobi. But during the trial, Odhiambo's marriage to Wanjiku was disputed. Whereas Odhiambo claimed that he had paid some dowry, her family maintained that the two were just friends. The court heard that the accused had gone looking for Wanjiku on the night that she was killed. A quarrel ensued during which Odhiambo is reported to have assaulted Wanjiku before shooting her. Now, Erastus Odhiambo is serving a 20-year jail term. He is in jail. There's a woman who is only identified as Ogembo, who has now sued the Attorney General, Paul Kihara Kariuki, because the government is not allowing her to go and visit her husband, who she says is Erastus Odhiambo, for conjugal rights. She is demanding conjugal visits. In a case likely to set a precedent on prisoners' right to have sex with their spouses, Ogembo argues that she has been deprived of a rightful right to procreate and have intimacy with her husband. The first petitioner is in her reproductive years, and it's her desire to sire more children, continue being a woman, and now seeks for conjugal visits with her spouse in a bid to meet her sexual needs. This is according to her lawyer. The Marriage Act guarantees spousal conjugal rights from their partners. However, Kenyan laws are silent on the rights of a prisoner to procreate while serving in jail.
When it says silence on the rights, does that mean that a law does not exist, or that there has been not enough clamor to get it?
It doesn't
very
provide
clear
for. So once you go to jail, do you have a right to get spousal visits?
Okay.
Do you then also have a right to be given a specific place where you can then have conjugal rights with your legally recognized spouse?
You know, there is also the question that has to arise from this discussion of what it is that incarceration entails and what it's meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is it meant to restitute someone, to restore them, and by so doing, provide occasions for them to enter into activities that would help them change their behavior, essentially really change their thinking, because when you change your thinking, it's then easier to change your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Or are we saying that when you've committed certain crimes, then what you've actually done, you've pressed a certain button that now excludes you from enjoying the rights that other people enjoy, because you have used the rights that you had to break laws that other people abide by, and in so doing, it is you who has provided yourself with an opportunity to be excluded from what other citizens of the country enjoy. What are we saying? Because if you think, and if we believe, and if our constitution is clear on this matter, and that your rights, for all that they are, extend to you even when you are incarcerated, and you say, with the exception of walking out of prison to do exactly what you want.
Yes.
Okay? Everything else that...
You have a right to life? Yes.
You do.
You have a right to health, high
Yes.
sustainable?
Yes.
You do. Do you have a right to... you have rights. You have rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution.
Precisely. Now, if you have these rights, then really what we're asking is, what are the limits of these rights?
Yeah. How far do they extend?
Exactly. Because, again, you are incarcerated because you have used your rights to infringe on other people's rights. When you've stolen, you're infringing on somebody else's rights. Owning property, ensuring that they are secure. If you've killed somebody, another one is even clearer. Okay? So, again, what are the extents to which these rights can actually be afforded to you when you are already incarcerated?
Should a prisoner, now let's look at it as, so you've committed a crime, you've been taken through the process, you've been found guilty, you've been sentenced, you've gone to prison. Okay? Should a prisoner be denied the right to have conjugal, right, to have sex with their partner? In essence, what you're saying is that you as the partner are also being denied a right
because it
for
is
no
your right.
crime you committed.
Yes, you were not involved. It
You're
is your
not
right
involved.
as the partner.
And the crime was
And
also
you're
not committed on your behalf.
Yes.
No.
So as the husband or wife, if your spouse has been jailed, should you suffer?
Which is the case essentially that Ogembo is bringing now
Yes.
before the AG, that, you know what, because you're not very clear on this, I now am suffering and I haven't done anything wrong. And it is a right that I have as a human being. I haven't done anything wrong, but this fellow is your guest. Now, in order for my right to be lived out, then I must visit him, right?
Yes.
So then I must also be heard in this case. And I think there's a case here if you want to look at it. Because she hasn't done anything wrong. But this is the person with which she will have this right lived out.
Yep.
So that has
in
to
fact,
be considered.
the law says, because
Yeah.
you're legally married to this person, that this is the only person that you are allowed to have sex with. That's how the law recognizes adultery as one of the grounds for divorce. So that means that once you are legally married, then you are basically bound to only have sex with this person who's your spouse. So then, if the spouse goes to prison,
You then need to make a
you cannot
provision.
commit a crime.
Exactly. I can't commit. Then I would also
Like-
find myself in there. So you then must also make provision, which is interesting because this is an issue that she brought before the AG as well. She argues that the state's failure to build or allocate facilities within prisons for conjugal visits is against her rights as a spouse. The first petitioner has read and understood the content and substance in the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act. Did you know there was such an act?
I had no clue.
You didn't know.
Persons
2014.
Deprived of Liberty Act.
Yes, and strongly believes that she is entitled to conjugal visits since her spouse retains all the rights under Article 51 of the Constitution. It is in law, it is clear. Now, where the law has been silent about what it cannot do, it is very clear on what can happen.
Yeah.
So based on that, look here, man. Auntie has a case.
Should prisoners be granted conjugal visits? Just contribute to this. 0719-012-600. Should they? There's a study that was conducted in 2018 by the University of Nairobi. Anya Karamasosi in her research said 91% of the people she found at committee maximum prisons, 1,800 prisoners that she spoke to responded to her question, supported in introduction of conjugal visits. 93% said denial of conjugal rights was a human rights violation. Mososi noted that those in support said such visits said they would reduce the alienation of inmates from the community that they will eventually rejoin. Grounds. So yes, at some point, my jail term is going to come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
I will be reintegrated into the community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you saying that I should be completely alienated from this community for 20 years, 30 years?
Let
me have at least some connection.
Does the granting of these conjugal rights affect or take away from the rehabilitation and restitution that this jail sentence is trying to bring about?
And the punishment.
Does it affect it in any way? Will it make you a better or worse person if you were then able to continue carrying this out with your spouse? And I think these are the things now that are being asked to look at. Mm-hmm. Okay, X person committed a crime. They're in prison for 1, 2, 3. And the process is meant to be restitutive as well as rehabilitative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now granting these rights, will it stop this process from playing out? Will it stop it? And I think these are the things that are being asked to look at here. Now you start to bring in issues of dignity and rights, etc., etc. Should you be allowed? Because I don't think here what the AG is being asked to look at is, even though under 51 of the Constitution, this gentleman he still has his rights, right?
Mm.
But here is this woman who is walking around free as a bird, has her rights, and you, the law, have already said that he's the only person that she can have these rights with.
Yep.
So then you're denying her that. You've already stated it very clearly
You're
that
also
he is the only
condemning her.
person. So you've condemned her as well to this. And she's still in her prime. She wants to have children, and this is the one that she can do it with. So the law, then the state, who is the custodian of the law, then also has a case to answer.
I think there are serious grounds here.
There's a case to answer.
There are serious grounds here.
One of the things that such cases do, they expand our knowledge of the law. And they help us understand things that ordinarily we would never understand. Persons Deprived of Liberty Act 2014.
I have never, as I was asking people,
In this country.
I'm telling you, there's something like that.
Yes, but see, now I know, and I can quote it. And tell somebody,
there's a person
2014.
deprived of
yes,
liberty.
and so this
And
thing which
I am deprived.
and I'm a person, and you are depriving me. A decision made on such a matter will, of necessity, become a former precedent.
Yes.
Something that can be looked at and something that can form a case of debate. But you see, the understanding of the law helps shape or helps us to move from certain views that we've had and we've held as dear regarding what we think the law ought to be. Because a lot of the times, people function on the assumption of what they believe the law is as opposed to what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the larger discussion is here, what fundamental rights should those incarcerated actually have, enjoy, and how can this be enforced?
How can they be? In fact, that is actually what this Persons Deprived of Liberty Act talks about. Because it's talking about people then who've been deprived of all these liberties and they've been placed in incarceration. What rights do they have? Rights of persons deprived of liberty and duties of persons in charge. I'm reading the law. Number 1, every person deprived of liberty is entitled to the protection of all fundamental rights and freedoms, subject to such limitations as may be permitted under the Constitution. Nothing in this act may be construed as limiting the rights and freedoms of persons deprived of liberty otherwise than in accordance with the Constitution. An institution holding persons detained in custody or imprisonment shall maintain a register which shall be used by the law enforcement officials to record the personal details, their physical condition, the reasons for the detention, the steps taken to ensure that the person arrested or detained is subjected to due process of the law, the medical history of the person detained, all those things. So, if they have all the rights, even to fair administrative justice,
You got to ask yourself, though, that the folks then who bear the duty of taking care of people who've been denied their liberty, are they aware of all these things that are supposed to be happening. Because I think that the mindset is that once somebody is thrown into prison, you couldn't give a toss about their rights, right? That, they're in there when the jail, when the sentence or the term has been lived out, then you let them go.
Mm-hmm.
All these other things that you're talking about, protecting this, that, the other, is it foremost in the minds of those who have the duty of care? Is it?
Yeah, but I think now the whole import of this case in court is this law is silent on conjugal visits. It talks about, yes, you have a right to interact with your family members, right to communicate with your family, with friends and family, right to decent housing, right to nutrition and diet, right to freedom of conscience, confidentiality, right to healthcare, right to education and access to information. You have freedom from forced labor. You have recreational and cultural activities for persons deprived of liberty, rights of children, rights of persons with disabilities who are incarcerated, rights to visits. A person held in lawful custody or detained in prison shall be entitled to receive at least one visitor once every 7 days. Is entitled to be visited at least once every 14 days if you are in prison in execution of a lawful sentence. Nothing in this section limits the number of days on which a person deprived of liberty may be visited by his or her legal counsel. Any discussion between legal counsel and the person is protected and shall be held in privacy. All those things, but then it does not talk about right to procreate.
Because I think Claire, because then there is a provision. There would be a rider to that. All these other things, you don't have to have anything extra to have them be visit by your counsel, visit by your family members, right to this, that, the other thing. You don't have to add anything extra. But this comes out in this argument that this lady is bringing out here. Because if you're going to visit it, then that means that facilities then would have to be provided.
Create a lodging.
Okay, so that would mean that there would have to be the introduction of facilities and things like this across board, across the country. It doesn't really matter where it is that you are.
Just 2 or 3 rooms. It's just a block.
Did you hear when they said there
rooms.
was no space in prisons and they were trying to open up spaces? What were you told was going to happen? That anybody who had a case really quickly, we tell you, there's even no need to incarcerate. Move quickly. What does that tell you? Are they ready to spend money?
They should. Because prisons in this country have ample land.
Indeed.
They can actually put up a 5-star facility.
Remember, it's the same prisons that for the longest time made our number plates.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, one of the biggest and one of the best furniture outlets were found in the Kenya prisons. What are we saying? The capacity that the prisons has is not fully exploited. But the way we treat people who are incarcerated points to one simple thing. Not even how we understand our laws. No. But how we ourselves see ourselves as human beings. And it also explains why it is we are able to accommodate and put up with the nonsense we put up with.
Right.
We ourselves haven't internalized this right for ourselves, just to begin with.
No.
And that's why you will allow someone to abuse it on your behalf.
Because you do not know.
You haven't internalized it.
Yeah.
You actually don't believe that you should and can enjoy certain rights.
And that you can demand.
No, you don't. And when somebody demands, you feel this person is doing something odd. Why are they kicking such a fuss about this thing? And look at the way Kenyans deal with issues. We don't confront, we adjust. When we stand up against it, it has reached the nth position. But by and large, even rights that we ordinarily ought to simply enjoy and live, we are willing to accommodate it, to move around it, to talk around it. Now, if that is our attitude, even when something is clear in the law, but it looks like it might create a fuss, and who knows, it may even bring about an inconvenience, you take a step backwards and start walking around it. Now, so when you're talking about rights that people who are incarcerated should enjoy, you've taken that discussion, you've made it a very far-flung consideration, and yet it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but then you can imagine the the surprise that will be met by quite a number of people saying, what are we even discussing here? When there are very other extremely basic ones that we've not even been able to address. Very, very basic. That the children of the country should be up in arms, right? When they can't go to school, when they're learning under a tree, for example, or if not learning at all. That place was flooded, school disappeared, and they've been sitting at home for the last 1 year, and nobody's up in arms because of the real, just like you say, the playing of that internalization of those rights has not come into our forethought. It isn't there. So that you can actually be up in arms and demand, hold on a minute, these children have been out of school for 1 year. Come on, get something done about it. Do it now. Now, can you imagine? You are now going to the extreme where you're talking about things that are done in the dark, and then you're asking and saying that there are rights that ought to be demanded when you're not even dealing with the basic rights of feeding and going
I think
to
it
school.
even starts with everybody in the society and the perception of people who are incarcerated.
Oh, but once they're incarcerated, they're done.
We think about it as, jail is the ultimate punishment for everything. In fact, when you're in jail, even feeding you should really be considering.
You should have $500,000.
Yeah. So when you hear, remember when Muga Ndu Okoh started saying, okay, now let's bring in TVs, people are like, So you go to prison and you're watching TV.
You might as well be outside.
And you go to prison and you're sitting down in a bus. Why? Now you're taking it at you shall get a visit and, you spend time with your family. In fact, let's even create bouncing castles so that your kids can visit you and you hey, no. We forget that we are talking about now us, other members of the society. When our relatives, when our kin, when our friends are incarcerated, how do we engage with them? Forget about that. Think in this particular case, people who will read this story today will think about the prisoner.
Yeah, and not the wife.
Not the wife.
No.
Why is the prisoner being allowed to have sex? No.
What kind of thing is that?
What is that?
When he was committing the crime, didn't he? Isn't that your first thought?
That's it.
That's what you're thinking.
Wife, not.
The issue of rights does not play in our minds at all, or even the consideration of the other person does not play in our minds at all, right? The damnation just continues for this one guy without realizing that he's part of another unit.
Yes.
Right? Not what he did or didn't do notwithstanding. He is a part of another unit that remains on this side of the gate.
He's somebody's husband.
Yes.
And the same society will judge that wife harshly if she actually remarried.
Somebody else, you see, the gate has not even locked properly on the husband and she's already jumping about.
So she decides to stay and wait for her husband, and it's 20 years. What happens?
It's something
we are not
think
thinking about,
man.
okay, so can she be allowed to continue building up a family? Can she get pregnant? Can she get a family? Can she start raising children? Can she take the children to go and visit their father? Can the children have a relationship with their father even though he is incarcerated in jail? Don't even think about going into a process of, procreation and getting... Just think somebody who's jailed today and they've left a 3-month-old child, a 1-year-old child, and then you're jailed for 15 years. Do we factor in, okay, so this child needs to have a relationship with the father. So they should then have moments with the father, not going to visit and sitting across
some bars.
But sitting with the father being able to lift the child, play around with the child, let the child know that this is my dad.
It's worth thinking about, man. It really is worth thinking about, because then you go into, there was a time where prison reforms were happening in this country, and we're not just talking about the structure, the physical structure, but there was reform in practice and then rehabilitation and what happens after these individuals come back into society. And I think these are all extremely important contributory factors. That what are you looking at when this person is there? You're trying to bring them out so that when they come out, they'll be better for society, better for themselves. This is why. Punishment, but rehabilitative at the same time. Now, when you're with the application of these rights, these things have to come into play. Are they even being considered? They're very rarely considered. Yeah. The other side of it is when you just like you said, when you think about a prisoner, you're thinking about the prisoner and not everybody else that they were connected to, not the other systems that they were part of before they went in. a lot of people would be chagrined. Like, how can we even mention it?
The way we talked about that young boy who was in Transmara and what he went through. Now imagine a child of a prisoner growing up knowing that their father is in prison. The way we have structured our society today is that we are even telling the child to also.
We stigmatize that child from day one.
Yes. Indeed.
From day one.
And to have a negative relationship with the father.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the father did. It doesn't matter whether they... No, we are basically priming that child. Your father is in jail. You should not even engage with him. You should not interact with your father or your mother. They're in jail. That's how we're telling a child to grow up. These are serious conversations that need to happen. Let's watch how this case goes. It will be a landmark case. Landmark case in all ways, more than one. So, Siti, tell us about today's proverb and why.
You see, the one thing that people seem to think they can do in this country is to postpone consequences. So you do something and you imagine, well, maybe if there are consequences, other people face consequences. But in my case, it will be delayed or there will be no consequences. And I'm saying, there are always consequences. You may think not, there are always consequences. What came to my mind when we were talking about the idea of hate speech, there's a gentleman called Habenga Okondo. He was a minister in the President Moi's government. And he made an utterance. There was a bishop of Eldoret, the ACK church, called Bishop Alexander Muge. And he said, this guy and the things he keeps saying, these are guys who are standing up and saying that there are certain basic rights. The same things we're talking about and speaking up against certain excesses of the government. He said, this guy will not live long. I'm paraphrasing. Unfortunately, Muge had an accident in Eldoret. He died.
Yes.
Oh, it was the end of that gentleman's career. KANU stalwarts are the ones who first stood up. Bwana Dawa is the first person who said, this guy ought to resign. That was the end of that gentleman's political career. Utterances. How could he know that guy was going to die? He's not the one who planned the accident.
No.
Yeah.
But everything associated with it, because he had uttered those words.
It came to pass.
Yes.
So the day's proverb is?
Panda ovyo. Kula ovyo.
Panda ovyo. Kula ovyo. Have a lovely day. Remember, this Saturday, 00 Direct with Olivia Ocheno, and she'll be teaching you how to achieve your 2022 dream body. She'll have 3 guests, a certified nutritionist, a fitness professional, and a yoga instructor. Coming up on Saturday from 10 a.m. Good morning, it's now 10 a.m. Have a lovely day.
Spice up your life